You've been misled about what peace truly is. They told you it comes from control, controlling every detail of your life, fixing every problem before it appears, arranging the world so it looks flawless from the outside. They sold you the image of the perfect life, the dream career, the beautiful home, the smiling family photos. But if that picture were enough, why is it that so many people who seem to have it all still lie awake in the darkness of their own rooms? Why do their minds refuse to rest when the lights go out? Why do they wake up exhausted, even after 8 or 9 hours in bed? The truth is this: peace is not a decoration you hang on the outside of your life. It isn't born from achievement, possessions, or appearances. Peace is an inner art, a quiet understanding that grows from within. For more than 2,500 years, Buddhist wisdom has carried this truth, not hidden away in temples on distant mountains or locked behind complex rituals, but expressed in simple, direct teachings about the nature of your mind, your fears, your endless cravings, your attachments, and how you can finally release them. What you're about to hear is not just another sleep track, not just background noise meant to lull you for a few hours. It is ancient truth, delivered softly, designed to meet your restless mind exactly where it is, and gently guide it towards stillness. It is here to help your body soften, your breath slow, and your heart rediscover its natural rhythm of rest. As you listen, something inside you will begin to shift. Slowly, the mental noise will fade. The tightness you've carried all day will begin to melt away. And here you are, still listening. That alone means something inside you longs for more than ordinary sleep. You are searching for rest, true rest, not just for the body that feels heavy at the end of the day, but for the mind that refuses to quiet down, for the thoughts that whirl endlessly behind your closed eyes, for the worries that pretend to be plans but never give you peace. You are not broken for feeling this way. You are not weak. You are simply human. And these teachings you are about to hear were created for humans, exactly like you, for minds that spin too quickly, for hearts that grip too tightly, for nights that stretch on too long. There is a reason you feel this weight at night, a reason why when the world outside finally grows quiet, the noise inside only grows louder. It is not random. It begins with a chain, an invisible chain of habits, reactions, and patterns that you never consciously chose, but still repeat every day. This is the starting point of the Buddhist teaching called dependent origination. And this, too, is where your freedom begins. In the time of the Buddha, there were no MRI machines, no therapy clinics, no neuroscience textbooks, and yet the depth of understanding of the human mind was so precise, so clear, it could almost be called surgical. The principle of dependent origination, what the Buddha named Paticca Samuppada, is not just a theory, it is a map, a complete guide to how suffering arises in the human mind, and most importantly, how it can be undone. At its center lies this simple but profound truth: nothing comes into being on its own. Everything is conditioned. Everything has a cause. Even the anxiety that clutches you in the middle of the night has causes. Even the spiral of overthinking that pulls you away from rest has causes. You never chose to be anxious. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "I think I'll fill my body with tightness and my mind with worry today." Anxiety doesn't arrive like that. It grows. It builds step by step, thought by thought, like dominoes falling in silence, each piece nudging the next, until the whole structure collapses into restlessness. At the root of this chain is something ancient: ignorance. Not ignorance, as in stupidity or lack of intelligence, but a kind of fog, a forgetting, a blindness to the truth of how life really works. It is the part of the mind that clings to illusions, that control is the same as peace, that if we can just fix everything outside of us, we'll finally feel whole inside. It's the voice that whispers, one more success, one more solved problem, one more sign of approval, and then I'll be okay. But has it ever truly been enough? The job title comes and still you worry. The relationship blooms and still you ache. The problem resolves and another rises in its place. Because wherever ignorance sits, craving follows right behind. Craving doesn't only hunger for pleasures. It hungers for certainty, for guarantees, for tomorrow to go exactly as you want it to, for people to behave in the way you hope, for life to unfold according to the story you wrote in your head. And this craving isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper in the pit of your stomach before a meeting. Sometimes it's the endless scroll through your phone, searching for something unnamed. Sometimes it's the rehearsed conversation that hasn't even happened yet. This is what the Buddha called upadana, attachment. Attachment not only to pleasure, but to identities, to roles, to the fragile sense of control, and to the stories you spin in your mind. You tell yourself you're preparing, you're being responsible, you're protecting yourself, but in truth, you're gripping so tightly that your body has already revealed the cost. The chest constricts, the breath shortens, the jaw tightens, and a quiet voice inside mutters, "If I don't hold it together, everything will fall apart." That is the trap, because craving leads to becoming. You become the one who must always be prepared. You become the fixer, the controller, the warrior, the one who carries every possible future on their back. And when you define yourself this way, you fear losing it. You fear what happens if you drop the role, if you let go of the control, and suddenly, even sleep, that most natural act of surrender, becomes a battleground. You close your eyes, but the mind refuses to soften. Thoughts argue in the dark. What if tomorrow doesn't go as planned? What if I forget something important? What if I wake up unprepared, exhausted, already behind? This is how anxiety is born, not in a single moment, but in a long and silent process. Each link in the chain giving rise to the next, until the whole night is lost to worry. But here lies the beauty. Once you see the chain, you can interrupt it. You don't have to fight your anxiety. You don't have to destroy it or make it disappear. You simply stop feeding the next link. You meet craving, but you do not obey it. You feel the urge to control, and you gently decline. You notice the thought, and instead of grabbing it, you allow it to drift past, like a cloud across an endless sky. You don't push it away, you don't judge it, you don't make it wrong. You simply see it for what it is, a ripple in the water, not the entire ocean. The Buddha never spoke of suffering as punishment. He spoke of it as misunderstanding. We suffer because we believe peace lies in chasing comfort, in avoiding every pain, in forcing outcomes to match our will. But this belief is what makes us tired. This belief is the reason peace always feels out of reach. The mind insists that if it can only think enough, calculate enough, plan enough, it will finally feel safe. But safety has never been in the future. Safety is here, now, in this breath, in this moment, in the stillness beneath the noise. In this very breath, in this simple inhale and exhale, there is already a doorway to peace. Notice how your body, without your effort, is beginning to soften with each word, each pause, each moment you allow yourself to simply be here. The shoulders drop a little, the muscles of the face loosen, the hands unclench. Stillness isn't something you must force. It opens naturally when you stop reaching, when you stop holding so tightly. Letting go is not the same as giving up. Letting go is giving space. Space for life to unfold in its own rhythm. Space for your mind to rest without demanding answers. Tonight, space for the world to turn without the weight of your grip holding it still. Because here is something your worry has never understood. You don't need to control everything to be safe. You don't need to know what tomorrow will bring in order to sleep deeply tonight. You don't need to fix the entire future to deserve peace in this present breath. This is the wisdom of dependent origination, the ancient teaching that shows us how suffering arises, link by link, and how freedom begins when even one of those links is released. You do not need to untangle your whole past. You do not need to rewire every thought or change who you are overnight. You only need to notice craving when it appears, and then refuse to build a house inside it. Refuse to tow it your identity. Refuse to label it as me. Because worry almost always begins with me. What will happen to me? Will I be okay? Will I succeed or fail? Will they accept me or reject me? But if there is no permanent, fixed self, if what we call me is only a collection of thoughts, habits, and stories, then who exactly is worrying? Who is under threat? Who really needs to be protected from tomorrow? This is not a riddle. It is a doorway into softness, into a space where you are free to set the burden down. The mind tries to hold the universe together, but the Dharma whispers gently, release, release the grip of expectation, release the endless what if, release the belief that safety can only be found in certainty. Your body is weary, not because it has done too much, but because your mind has been running without rest. But what if you didn't have to run anymore? What if you could simply sit, breathe, and whisper to yourself, right now, I don't know, and that's okay. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. It is what arises when you stop mistaking your thoughts for truth, when you stop clinging to control, when you stop chasing after sleep and instead allow rest to find you. Anxiety is not here to destroy you. Anxiety is a teacher. It points to the places where you still believe you must fight. It reveals the corners of the heart where you still feel alone. It shows you where you still think peace must be earned. But peace has never been a prize. Peace has always been here, waiting, not created, not achieved, simply revealed. Revealed in the moments when you let things be as they are. Let today be exactly what it was. Let tomorrow arrive as it wishes. Let this breath be enough. This is the end of the chain. Not because the world outside has been solved, but because your heart no longer demands it to be solved. Right now, feel the bed beneath you, steady and supportive. Feel the slow rhythm of your chest rising and falling without effort. Notice the sounds around you, each one harmless, each one passing. None of them are a threat. You are not in danger. You are not behind. You are not late to your own life. You are here, alive, breathing, ready, finally, to rest. The Buddha once said, when this is, that is. When this ceases, that ceases. Tonight you are beginning to cease the clinging, to cease the resistance, to cease the endless becoming that leaves you exhausted. You are not the one holding the world together. You never were. So let the chain fall. Let the wheel stop turning. Let the story soften until it no longer binds you. Sleep is not the absence of thought. It is the presence of peace. And peace begins the very moment you stop reaching for it. Let this be your practice tonight. Let this be your permission. Permission to stop striving, to stop proving, to stop chasing what you already carry inside you. Permission to simply rest. You've already taken the first and most important step. You've chosen to pause. That alone is enough. There is nothing more to fix in this moment, nothing more to carry. Simply stay with your breath. Stay with the gentle rise and fall in your chest. Stay with the stillness that is here now. You are safe. You are supported. You are loved. and the night no longer requires your worry. Now that the weight on your shoulders has begun to soften, now that your body remembers how to rest without holding tomorrow in its grip, we turn towards something deeper, something most people spend their entire lives avoiding, not because it is dangerous, but because they believe facing it will shatter their peace. But here is the truth. The opposite is real. What we fear to face is, in fact, the doorway to freedom. There is one truth more powerful than anxiety, more liberating than control, more comforting than certainty, the truth that everything ends. This moment will end. This day will end. And yes, one day, you too will end. This is not something to dread. It is not a shadow chasing you. It is a reality to understand, to rest into, to work with gently. Maranasati is not morbid. It is not dark. It is clear. It is honest. It is liberating. The Buddha offered it as medicine, not poison, not to burden the mind, but to set it free. Because when you realize that your time is limited, every moment becomes radiant with value. Every breath is precious. Every kindness matters. And strangely, instead of fear, what arises is relief. You stop postponing your peace. You stop believing there will be some perfect time to finally feel whole. Because if not now, when? If peace is not allowed here, in this very breath, then it will never arrive in the future. So much anxiety is born from an illusion of endlessness. The belief that there will always be more time, that you can always catch up later, that rest can be delayed until some imaginary finish line. But that illusion keeps you running, keeps you tense, keeps you chasing. When you remember death, that illusion shatters, and what takes its place is present. Contemplating death does not push you away from life. It brings you closer to it. It reveals what truly matters. You begin to see how many of your worries are built upon things that in the end will dissolve like sand through open fingers. The deadlines, the status, the judgments of others. Under the light of impermanence, they lose their power, they fade. And when they fade, the simplest things shine. Your breath is enough. Your body feels like home. Sleep itself becomes sacred, no longer a struggle, but a gift. To contemplate death does not mean to obsess over it. It means to hold it gently in your awareness, like a quiet companion walking beside you. To remind yourself, not with fear, but with clarity, that this moment is not guaranteed. This breath is a miracle. This stillness is rare. Not everyone who closed their eyes last night had the chance to open them this morning. Not everyone who made plans for tomorrow will see them unfold. Knowing this does not make you hopeless. It wakes you up. It pulls you closer to what is real. It silences the noise that never truly mattered. The mind loves to wander to regrets of the past, to fears of the future. But when death is remembered in the heart, the mind slows down, not from panic, but from wisdom, because it finally understands. There is no time to waste on noise, no time to waste on pretending, no time to waste on proving or performing. There is only time to be. You begin to live even in the quietest, smallest of moments. With a sense of meaning, many people fear that contemplating death will rob them of peace, but in truth, it is distraction that robs peace. It is illusion that breeds fear. When death is fully acknowledged, not avoided, it brings with it a stillness so profound the mind no longer has anywhere to run, nothing left to chase, nothing left to defend. And in that space, at last, you can rest. Not because life has suddenly become perfect, not because every problem is solved, but because you have stopped demanding permanence from what was never meant to last. And when that grip loosens, the body loosens too. The shoulders no longer need to carry tomorrow. The jaw no longer needs to clench in preparation for a future that may never arrive. When mortality is accepted, not in a dramatic, heavy way, but in a quiet, clear, and honest way, the body remembers how to relax. The heart remembers how to soften. The mind remembers how to rest. Sleep comes not as a battle, but as a river flowing on its own, without pushing, without effort. Throughout Buddhist history, monks and nuns often practiced meditation in charnel grounds, surrounded by the visible reminders of impermanence. They didn't turn away. They didn't cover their eyes. They sat among the bones, the ashes, the returning earth, not as punishment, but as practice, a practice of seeing clearly, a practice of dissolving the illusion of permanence, a practice of understanding that clinging itself is suffering, and that by releasing clinging, peace is revealed. But you do not need to sit among bones to touch this truth. You only need to remember, gently, silently, here in your own bed, that you too are passing through, that all forms change, that every thought fades, that this night too will end, that even the restless energy in your chest has an expiration date. Nothing lasts forever, not even discomfort. When death is embraced not as something far off in the future, but as a presence woven into every breath, life itself becomes brighter. Each inhale becomes a blessing. Each exhale, a release. Each blink, a sacred event. Each night you are granted the chance to lay down and rest is a miracle too precious to overlook. This teaching does not invite fear. It dissolves fear, because fear is born of denial. Fear grows strongest when we pretend we are not vulnerable, when we live as if we can outrun time. But remembering death puts everything in its right place. It humbles the illusions of the mind. It reminds you gently you do not need to do everything. You do not need to be everything. You only need to be here. Anxiety often disguises itself as importance. The mind whispers, if you fail, everything will collapse. If you make a mistake, life will break. If you don't stay ahead, you will be left behind. But when you reflect on death, you see the truth. Life was never about perfection. It has always been about presence, and presence can never be taken from you. It can only be forgotten. Tonight, you are remembering. Right now, as you lie here, your body breathes itself. Your heart continues its rhythm. Your mind listens and understands. That alone is extraordinary. No guarantee has been made that you will receive another night like this. But that is not a reason for fear. It is a reason for tenderness. Tenderness toward yourself. Tenderness toward this moment. Tenderness toward your deep need for rest. Let go of the old belief that death is distant. It is not distant, and it is not cruel. It is simply the way life moves. All forms change, all rivers flow, and in that constant flow you are reminded that grasping is pointless. Control is an illusion. What brings peace is not tightening your grip, but loosening it. In the Buddhist tradition, it is said, death is certain. The time of death is uncertain. These words were never meant to darken your spirit. They were meant to set you free, free from postponement, free from endless worry, free from stretching time as if it owes you something. Time owes you nothing, but this moment, this soft, steady breath, offers you everything. There is a deep stillness that arises when you no longer try to outrun the truth. When you stop pretending that life is infinite, when you sit quietly in the recognition that your time is unknown, your legacy unfinished, your story still unfolding, that stillness is not fear, it is clarity. Most people avoid thinking about death, believing it will steal their joy, but the opposite is true. Most people remain unhappy, precisely because they live as though life will go on forever. They delay joy, They postpone peace. They trade rest for chasing achievements. But when you remember death, you return to simplicity. You no longer need to chase. You no longer need to fix. You no longer need to fight. You simply need to be here, breathing, soft, open. There is a tenderness in remembering you will die. It humbles the ego. It quiets the noise. It reminds you that no status, no possession, no praise, no recognition can shield you from impermanence. And that is not tragedy, it is freedom, because you were never in need of protection. What you truly needed was perspective. Maranasati, the contemplation of death, is not about morbidity. It is about awakening. It's about meaning, and meaning doesn't come from control, from perfection, or from endlessly proving yourself. It comes from realizing just how fragile life really is. Not in fear, but in gratitude. Gratitude for the fact that you are here, breathing, alive in this very moment. You are not entitled to another morning. You are not promised another sunrise. And because of that, tonight becomes sacred. This bed becomes holy ground. Your breath becomes a prayer, not a desperate plea for more time, but a quiet, reverent thank you. If this was your last night, what would you truly worry about? What would still matter? Who would you still be trying to impress? And what would you finally allow yourself to release? The answers to those questions are not frightening. They are the doorway to peace, because peace always begins when life becomes simple again. Not about tomorrow, not about appearances, but about how you treat the best thing you ever really have. This moment, Maranasati, the remembrance of death, brings you back to this truth again and again until the noise dissolves, until the breath slows, until sleep comes not as an escape, but as a gentle surrender. And you do not need to fear surrender. You have done it 1,000 times already. Every breath you exhale is a letting go of the one before it. Every night you fall asleep is a letting go of who you were that day. And one day, when the final letting go comes, it will not be punishment, it will be a return to the great ocean, like a wave slipping back into its source. Tonight, let yourself fall into that rhythm. Soften, not because everything is solved, but because you see clearly now. You know what is real, you know what matters, and you also know that most of what kept you awake last week no longer matters today. It never truly did. This teaching is not about thinking, it is about feeling. Feeling your way back to truth. Feeling the weight leave your chest. Feeling the tenderness of being here, even briefly. Feeling the stillness that death teaches better than anything else. Ask yourself gently, if your time was shorter than you thought, would you still spend it on worry? Would you still hold on to grudges? Would you still rush past your own breath in search of something out there? Or would you pause? Would you stay? Would you whisper thank you for this moment, even in its imperfection? Maranasati invites you to answer with presence, to stop waiting for life to be different before you can love it, to stop waiting for certainty before you can rest, because peace doesn't come from endless guarantees. Peace comes from remembering the truth, not because death is beautiful, but because death is real. And when truth is met with compassion, it always leads to peace. So let your breath slow now. Let your thoughts loosen their grip. Let this moment be the only thing you serve tonight. You do not need to hold on to anything else. The practice has already begun, and freedom has already started to unfold. You have let go of the need to control tomorrow. You have rested in the truth that nothing lasts forever. You have begun to make peace with what cannot be changed. And yet, even after this deep release, something subtle may still linger, a residue, not fear, not craving, but the quiet weight of your own actions, the conversations you had today, the choices you made, the words you spoke without care, the words you held back but wished you had said. This is what often unsettles the mind at night, not the unknown future, but the unexamined past. Not what happened to you, but how you responded. And here is where karma enters. Not as punishment, not as destiny, but as a mirror. Karma, in its simplest sense, is cause and effect. A thought gives rise to intention. Intention becomes action. Action creates a result, and that result echoes. Sometimes as a shout, sometimes as a whisper, but always it echoes. When the day is busy, those echoes are drowned out. But when the night grows still, the heart hears them clearly. They are what keeps the mind turning long after the body is tired. But karma is not an outside force. It is not waiting to strike you down. It is you. It is the ripple of your choices. And because it comes from you, it can also be cleared by you. The closing of the karmic ledger each night is not about judgment. It is not about guilt. It is about awareness, about reflection, not shame, about clarity, not perfection. The mind likes to pretend the day is over simply because the clock says so, but the heart knows better. The heart remembers what is unresolved. That is why nightly reflection matters, not as punishment, but as release. So as you rest now, let the day unfold again, gently, without analysis, like watching a film without the need to rewrite the script. Begin at the beginning. Remember how you woke. What mood filled your first breath? What was the first word you spoke? How did you meet your own thoughts in the morning? With care or with resistance? And then, slowly, move into the flow of your actions. How did you walk through the world today? How did you treat others, even when no one else was watching? Remember, karma is not only about the grand decisions, it is about the small ones too. The smile offered, the word withheld, the kindness ignored, the patience shown. All of it echoes. It's in the smallest things. The subtle tones you used when speaking to a stranger, the thoughts you allowed to grow quietly in the soil of your mind, the energy you carried into a room before you said a word, the pause you chose before reacting, or the times you reacted without pausing at all. Every one of these moments plants seeds, and those seeds don't vanish simply because the sun has set. They stay within you until you release them. Reflection is how you release them. Reflection is the way you say to your own heart, I see what happened. I see what I carried, and now I choose to let it go. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be honest. Look more at your intentions than your outcomes, because sometimes your words were clumsy, but your heart meant well. Sometimes you made choices that didn't land the way you hoped, but underneath them was a wish to protect, to care, to do your best with what you knew. When you understand your motives clearly, even mistakes become teachers. Now look gently at your speech. The Buddha taught that speech creates some of the most powerful karma. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds too. They can heal or harm, open or close, connect or divide. Review what you said today. Not just the words that were heard, but how they were offered. Did they carry kindness? Were they helpful? Were they necessary? If not, acknowledge it, not to punish yourself, but to grow more skillful. Every night is another chance to refine your speech, to remember its power, and to use your voice with greater care tomorrow. Next, turn inward to your reactions, not just to what you did, but how you responded. Where did resistance rise in you today? Where did anger flare like a sudden flame? Where did you fall back into old patterns that no longer serve you? This is not about shame, it is about learning. There is no peace in pretending you handled everything perfectly, but there is deep peace in admitting where you stumbled and in choosing, gently, to do better tomorrow. Here is the secret. When you reflect honestly, the mind begins to settle because guilt thrives on avoidance. Restlessness grows out of unfinished business. But the moment you face yourself without defense, that restless energy dissolves. It's like clearing a cluttered desk before bed. The work is not erased, but the space is clean. And in that space, clarity appears. Many people lie awake at night, not because the future terrifies them, but because the past is unresolved within them. Not because they are unsafe, but because they feel slightly out of alignment with their own integrity. Karma is not only about what happens to you, it is also about how whole you feel with yourself. The less divided you are inside, the deeper you rest. So, each night, bring yourself back into wholeness. Let reflection be the bridge. This is not about keeping score. It is about reconnecting with what you truly value. Acknowledge them, celebrate them. The seeds of peace you planted today are real. Every moment of patience, every kind word, every choice to pause instead of react. These are drops of water nourishing the soil of your life. Water them with gratitude. Even when the day felt heavy or imperfect, there was still beauty, still effort, still goodness. Don't let your mind fixate only on what went wrong. Let it also linger on what went right. The quiet victories no one saw. The compassion you offered silently. The times you softened when you could have hardened. They count. They always count. As you reflect, be gentle with yourself. Your mind does not need another judge tonight. It needs a witness. Your heart does not need shame. It needs space. Let your reflection be like a soft cloth, wiping dust from a mirror, not scrubbing, not forcing, simply clearing away what no longer needs to be carried into sleep. Some people think karma is fixed, a life sentence written in stone, that mistakes must always lead to suffering. But the Buddha's wisdom is clear. Karma is not punishment. Karma is momentum, and momentum can be redirected. A harmful action can be purified, not by hiding it or denying it, but by seeing it clearly, learning from it, and choosing differently. Reflection is where purification begins, not through perfection, but through presence. Tonight, allow yourself to be present, not just to your breath, but to your story, not to relive the day, but to close it. Let this day end in your heart before it ends on the clock. Speak silently the words left unsaid. Offer forgiveness to those who need it. Even if that someone is you, release what does not belong to this moment. When you do this, sleep no longer feels like escape. It becomes easeful surrender, not because the mind is empty, but because the heart is no longer crowded. You don't need to control your thoughts. You only need to make peace with them, and peace is born of clarity. The ledger of your day is not about mathematical balance. It is about balance in the soul. Ask yourself, does this day feel complete, or is something left open? If it is open, close it gently with intention. You don't need to fix it, you only need to see it. And in seeing, healing begin. Now let the breath deepen. Let the body sink further into the bed. Let the story of this day soften into the background. You have seen yourself clearly. You have honored the truth without turning away. That is enough. There is nothing more to carry. The karmic echoes are quiet now. The heart has been heard. You are ready for sleep, not only as rest, but as a return to stillness, a return to clarity, a return to the peace that arises when nothing is left unsaid within you. This day is complete. Let it be complete, and let yourself begin again. You have stepped into honesty. You have reflected with openness. You have touched your intentions without denial. And already, something inside you has softened. But even with clarity, sometimes the heart still clings. Sometimes the mind replays moments, looping endlessly. A phrase you regret, a plan left unfinished, an emotion that lingered longer than you wished. You've reflected, you've acknowledged, and still, part of you may hold on. This is natural, because awareness is only one part of release. The deeper part is willingness, the willingness to let go, not only of what happened, but of the story you attach to it. This is where anicca, impermanence, becomes your guide, not as an abstract philosophy, but as a living truth. Impermanence is one of the Buddha's most essential insights, a truth not meant to frighten, but to free. Everything changes, not just the world outside you, but the inner world too. The pain you felt this morning has already shifted. The joy that surprised you is already fading. The flash of anger rose and fell like a wave. The plan that failed has already transformed into memory. None of it is fixed. None of it stays. And this is not a problem. It is the path. The real struggle is rarely with what happened. It is with how tightly we hold on to what happened. The mind loves to replay, not because it is cruel, but because it believes repetition equals control. If I revisit the conversation enough, maybe it will end differently. If I rehearse the mistake long enough, maybe I will undo it. If I rethink the plan endlessly, maybe the result will change. But impermanence whispers another truth. You don't need to replay the wave to calm the sea. You only need to let the wave pass. If you hold tightly enough, you might believe regret will not touch you, but holding on doesn't free you from the past. It binds you to it. Impermanence is what cuts that rope. When you see that all things pass, your relationship to the day changes. You no longer try to carve permanence into that was always meant to dissolve. That awkward exchange at work, the sharp word with someone you love, the opportunity you think you missed, each of them came and each of them has already gone. The only reason they remain is because your clinging held them here. Anicca, impermanence, does not ask you to deny your experiences. It does not ask you to pretend they never happened. It invites you to stop turning experience into identity. The sadness you felt was not wrong. It was simply past. The disappointment that weighed on you did not define you. It was a visitor. The plan that failed did not collapse your worth. It simply ended. Every moment contains the seed of its own disappearance. When you see this clearly, release does not come by force. It comes by insight. Nothing needs to be pushed away. Nothing needs to be fixed. It only needs to be seen for what it is, temporary. What would it feel like to soften there, to loosen the hand that holds so tightly? You don't need to force release. You can let go simply by seeing there is nothing solid to hold. That memory will fade. That feeling will change. That unfinished task will find its place. Life is not frozen. You are not frozen. Time is not a painting. It is a river. You step into it, and it carries you forward with or without your permission. Often, the mind clings to stories because it believes they are protection. If I let go of this anger, will it mean what happened was okay? If I release this disappointment, will it mean I no longer care? If I allow this plan to dissolve, will it mean I gave up? None of this is true. The now is where healing lives. But when you are pulled backward into unfinished stories, the present blurs. You miss what is possible because you are still holding what was. That is why impermanence is not just truth. It is medicine. Medicine that loosens the grip of what was never meant to be held forever. Every emotion from your day, no matter how heavy or sharp, has already begun to fade. Your awareness may bring it into the light, but impermanence allows it to dissolve. If you allow it, not every story needs closure through resolution. Sometimes closure comes when you allow things to remain incomplete. Incomplete is not broken. Incomplete is simply what happens when life moves faster than your plans. When people respond in ways you didn't expect. When the world, in its unpredictable rhythm, moves beyond your design. Impermanence teaches you to stop. The pain of today may still feel sharp, but even now it has changed. It is not the same as it was an hour ago, and by tomorrow it will have softened further. The unfinished conversation, the unanswered message, the unmet goal, none of them are fixed in stone. They are not weights chained to you. They are movements still unfolding, currents still flowing. What is left open does not have to be a burden. It can become a doorway into patience, into gentleness, into growth. Growth never comes from holding tighter. It comes when you allow life to move through you without resistance. This is the lesson of Anika, impermanence. And when you live this truth, rest is no longer something you must chase or demand. It arises naturally because there is nothing left to grip. The mind, of course, will try to return to today's stories. It will replay words, replay plans, replay emotions. Not to harm you, but because it still does not fully trust that letting go is safe. You can teach it, slowly and kindly. Whisper back, that moment has passed. That thought is fading. That plan will evolve. That emotion has already served its time. Even the body responds to this gentle teaching. The breath deepens, the muscles soften, the nervous system begins to settle. When the mind stops replaying stories, the body no longer needs to guard against them. Sleep is no longer a battle to be won. It becomes a homecoming. You are not who you were this morning, and that is a blessing. You have changed, grown, released. Even if the day carried pain, it did not define you. It visited, and now it leaves, like weather, like wind, like wave. Nothing is stuck. Not your thoughts, not your feelings, not your path. And when you accept this, you no longer need to rewrite the day. You allow it to rest exactly as it is, and you allow yourself to rest exactly as you are. Now take a slow breath and feel the truth settling in your body, the shift that is already happening, the soft untangling of what no longer needs to remain, the quiet release of everything that cannot follow you into sleep. This is the living power of Anika, not just as an idea, but as an experience. Let the mind rest in that. Let the heart rest in that. Let the story of today dissolve without needing completion. You have done what you could. You have seen what was meant to be seen. Now it is time to let go. What is done is done. What is unfinished will find its own time, and you are free. Free to rest, free to return, free to simply be. And as the stories of today dissolve, as the breath flows more easily and the mind loosens its hold on memory, something else reveals itself, a deeper truth. Emptiness is not loneliness. You have released attachments, plans, emotions, and the weight of the day, yet in the silence that remains, another need stirs quietly, the need for presence. Not for stimulation, not for more doing, but for companionship, for the reminder that even as you rest in solitude, you are not meant to walk this path entirely alone. There is great strength in being with yourself, and there is great peace in feeling accompanied, not physically, not socially, but spiritually. This is where the practice of companionship begins. In Buddhism, Sangha means community. Traditionally, it refers to monks and nuns devoted to the path, but the deeper meaning reaches beyond structure. It points to all beings, living or gone, who embody wisdom, those who carry truth, those who hold space for peace. They walk beside you, often unseen, often unheard, but never absent. Their presence lives in teachings, in memory, in the quiet feeling of steadiness that arises when you remember you are not the first to walk through this. The Buddha walked this path. His disciples walked it. Countless seekers across centuries have sat with the same breath, the same impermanence, the same longing for peace. And tonight, as you rest, you join them. You are never alone here. So have countless beings across time and space. Those who sat with fear and chose love, who faced impermanence and discovered peace, who met suffering and answered with compassion. Their bodies may be gone, but their awareness, their presence, their quiet strength remain. You do not need to be religious to feel this. You only need to know the tender relief of being seen, even when no one is looking, of being held, even when no hand touches yours. The mind has a gift. It can recreate stress through memory. Yes, but it can also recreate comfort. It can build safety through attention. And you've done this before without realizing it. Remembering a loved one's voice when you needed courage, hearing a teacher's words long after they left the room, finding calm in the memory of someone who once helped you feel seen. These are not fantasies, they are inner resources. They live in you, and tonight they are here to help you rest. This is the Sangha, the community, not just monks or nuns, but the larger field of companionship, the quiet gathering of wisdom around you. You can access it anytime, and in this hour, when the outer world has gone still and your inner world longs to release, it is especially nearby. The Sangha you invite may take many forms. It could be the teacher whose words gave you clarity, a mentor who believed in you before you believed in yourself, a wise elder whose presence calmed you without saying a word. Or perhaps it is someone you've never met, a writer, a guide, a lineage holder, whose life embodied the values you wish to deepen. You don't need to see their faces. You don't need to hear their voices. All you need is the willingness to be accompanied. You don't ask anything of them. You don't need answers. You only let them rest near you, like a circle of calm, not watching, not judging, just holding the silence with you, supporting your release. This practice is not escape. It's not imagining someone else will fix everything for you. It is remembering that truth never walks alone, and neither do you. Whatever you've faced, someone else has faced too. Whatever questions echo in your mind, someone else has whispered into the dark. You are not separate from the great stream of seekers, healers, and teachers. You are part of it. And as you lie here, you can begin to sense their nearness. Quiet, grounded, spacious. The air feels fuller but not heavy. A warmth spreads, subtle but steady, as if the very room has become sacred. Their presence asks nothing of you. You don't need to perform. You don't need to explain. You don't need to defend yourself. There is no pressure to impress, only permission to rest more deeply than you usually allow. If the mind wanders, let it. Simply return to the sense of being supported. Return to the feeling that you are not alone. Wise ones hold space for you to surrender. Your vulnerability is not weakness. It is the doorway into connection. This Sangha is not only human. Sometimes it comes as qualities themselves: compassion, patience, courage, steadiness. These too can sit with you like companions, not abstract words but living energies. Compassion at your left shoulder, clarity at your right, peace at your feet, steadiness at your back, trust above your crown. Not fantasies, but states of mind awakened by attention, summoned by practice. As you rest in this circle, your nervous system recalibrates. You no longer feel You must stay alert to survive the night. You no longer scan the silence for threat. The body begins to learn through repetition that safety is possible, even when the future is uncertain. That rest is sacred, even after a difficult day. That sleep is allowed, even when your life is still unfinished. Spiritual companionship is not about rescue, it is about remembrance. Remembrance that you belong, that you are part of something larger than your own thoughts, that the longing in your heart for peace is the same longing every being has carried. When you know this, loneliness loses its grip. Isolation becomes solitude. Solitude becomes refuge. Many of us have been taught that we must do everything alone, that even asking for unseen help is weakness, that leaning into presence is dependency. But that belief is not truth, it is conditioning. The deeper truth is this: interconnection is your nature. Dependence is not failure, it is life expressing itself through relationship. And some of the most powerful relationships are the quietest, the ones that require no words, no actions, only presence. Tonight, lean into this truth. You were never meant to hold it all alone. You were never asked to. There are unseen hands holding space for you now. There are countless beings who have walked this road before, lighting the path not by instruction, but by simply being. If tears rise, let them. They are not sadness, they are release. They are the armor loosening. They are your soul remembering, I never needed to carry so much for so long in silence. Let the Sangha surround you now. Let yourself be carried by presence. Let yourself be held in the stream of all who walked before you. You are not alone. You never were. Not with noise, not with answers, just with presence. Silent, steady presence. The kind of presence that whispers, rest is safe. Stillness is welcome. You are not too much. You are not too far. You are simply here, and here is enough. If thoughts rise, let them be held within this circle. You don't need to resolve them. You don't need to resist them. They are seen. They are softened, allowed to drift like clouds across a vast sky. This is not worship. This is connection, not through belief, but through shared experience. Through the knowing that others have sat where you now lie. Others have trembled with the same fears. Others have searched for sleep with the same heaviness in their chest. And they too were held. Some of them hold you now, not because you asked, but because compassion does not wait for permission. In the Dharma, compassion is not earned. It is given freely, always. Let your body receive it. Let your breath grow softer. Let the edges of your being blur into this presence. You don't need to keep your boundaries so sharp. You are not separate from the peace you seek. You are not outside the presence you long for. You are inside it, already, breathing in it, resting in it. Morning will come. You will rise again. You will carry your work, speak your truth, meet the day. But for now, there is nothing to carry, nothing to solve. The Sangha holds you, the teachings protect you, and the night welcomes your surrender. You are not alone. You never were. So let the silence deepen. Let the presence remain. Let your heart rest in companionship that asks for nothing and offers everything. Now you may sleep, not because the world is perfect, but because you no longer need to hold it alone. The stillness has thickened around you. You have remembered that presence does not always speak aloud, that real companionship often has no words at all, that even here, even with this comfort, the mind may cling to one last thread, a quiet pattern, almost invisible, humming beneath awareness, the momentum of becoming. This is bhava, the link in the chain of dependent origination that often slips by unnoticed. Not loud like craving, not sharp like anger, but steady like background music. The subtle push to keep being someone, even as you drift towards sleep. It shows up in the mental rehearsals, the roles you don't realize you're still playing. The worker still calculating, the parent still anticipating, the friend still replaying the conversation, the inner judge still keeping score. These aren't just thought, they are identities reinforcing themselves. Masks you keep wearing even as your eyes grow heavy. And when identity hardens, it becomes suffering, because the role never ends. I am the one who must succeed. I am the one who failed today. I am the fixer. I am the one who must know. I am the one who must be seen. Without realizing, the mind spends every hour rehearsing these lines. And when the night comes, it does not stop. It only shifts tone. That's why sleep can feel like resistance. The body is tired, but the mind is still performing, still finishing the act of being someone. But Biverne never finishes. That's the trap. Becoming never completes itself. The role always expands. The story always continues. One more scene, one more turn. And so, you lie awake, not because your body resists rest, but because your identity is still on stage. To fall asleep deeply, you don't need to fight these roles. You don't need to destroy them. You don't need to judge them. You simply step out of them, like stepping out of a costume at the end of a play. You place the mask down. You set the script aside. You let go of the idea that you must continue being anyone at all right now. You are not required to be yourself. You do not need to carry forward the image that got you through the day. Tonight, you are allowed to be no one. And in being no one, you become free. You don't need to be the version of yourself that earned approval today, that stayed composed, that held everything together. You are allowed to dissolve. When the Buddha spoke of bhava, becoming, he pointed to this subtle engine inside us, the quiet drive to exist in a certain way. It is not the same as simply being. It is the constant reaching, shaping, constructing of identity. And while this process helps us move in the world, when it goes unchecked, it grows heavy, especially at night when nothing more is required of you. And yet, your system insists on being someone. This is where awareness becomes medicine. Begin to notice which version of yourself is still trying to survive this moment. Are you the thinker, still rehearsing? The planner, still anticipating? The caretaker, still carrying? The achiever, still striving? Which image is the mind protecting, repeating, holding together even as the rest of you longs for release? The moment you see bhava in action, the chain begins to weaken. The momentum slows. You don't need to fight to become someone else. You simply stop becoming right here, right now. Identity pauses, and behind it there is space. It may feel dangerous to let go of identity. Who will protect me if I'm not the one in charge? Who will make sure everything is okay? This fear is part of bhava. It convinces you that without a role, you are nothing. But the truth is, without a role, you are free. Freedom doesn't mean disappearing. It means resting in being without the pressure of becoming. It means letting your breath exist without labels. It means returning to a state of awareness that is not defined, not limited, not fixed. This is the ground from which real sleep arises. Not sleep as shut down, but sleep as return. Begin by noticing the body. Notice how each role leaves its trace in you. The thinker shows up as a clenched jaw, the responsible one as lifted shoulder, the one who must be right as a tight chest. These physical cues reveal where bhava still grips you. When you feel them, soften. Let that role loosen. Let the body be just a body again. Let the mind be just open space. You don't need to assign meaning to every event of the day. You don't need to finish every thought. The need to complete the story is brother's trap. The belief that every thread must be tied before you can rest is not a necessity. It is only a pattern, and patterns can be released. So tonight, let yourself become no one. Let your name fall away. Let the titles fade. Let the pressures stop circling. You are not required to be anything for anyone. You are not a project. You are not a role. You are not the sum of your decisions. You are simply awareness resting in form. Even the identity of being the spiritual one, the meditator, the seeker, let that one rest too, because perfectionism sneaks into every role, even the role of awakening. Tonight you don't need to achieve transformation. You don't need to gain insight. You don't need to improve. You are not here to practice well. You are here to sleep, and that is enough. Brava creates suffering not because identity is bad, but because identity is impermanent. The more tightly you grip it, the more painful its changes become. The version of you from yesterday has already dissolved. The version of you from tomorrow has not yet appeared. And here, in the space between, you are whole. The mind may protest. It may whisper, but I need to be someone. I need to be understood. I need to continue my story. And then to continue my story, thank the mind for its loyalty, appreciate its effort, and then let it rest. Thoughts about self are clouds forming, dissolving, drifting. You are not the cloud. You are the sky that holds them all. This seeing is enough. The body breathes. Awareness notices. Nothing else is required. Slowly, without pressure, the mind begins to stop spinning. The roles lose their stickiness. The stories unravel, and sleep approaches, not as interruption, but as life returning to itself. Every night you are given this chance to unhook, to release, to dissolve into a state where no one needs to be in charge. The world will not fall apart if you stop becoming. In fact, the world continues precisely because everything lets go in its time. There is nothing wrong with the roles you play. Parent, teacher, leader, friend. They are part of living, but they become cages when they follow you into rest, and they only follow because you keep inviting them. Tonight, you can choose not to invite them, thank them, bow to them, and ask them to wait outside the door of sleep. You will return in the morning, but tonight you are free. Pava thrives on noise, on narration, on constant movement. But when silence is sustained, its power fades, and in that fading, rest arrives. That is why rest is not only healing for the body, it is purification for the mind. The more you rest in stillness, the more bhava, the restless becoming, loosens its grip. Not forever, not once and for all, but enough. Enough to let spaciousness appear. Enough to let the story pause. Enough to let you enter sleep without dragging yourself behind you. Right now, feel what it's like to stop trying to be anything. Let the breath arrive with no agenda. Let the body soften without performance. Let awareness widen without fixing. No label, no shape, just presence. This is not emptiness. This is fullness without form. It is what remains when becoming stops. Peaceful, quiet, spacious. You before the roles, you before the titles, you before the name. From here, sleep becomes deep. From here, sleep is not escape, but homecoming. Here there is no watcher, no expectation, no measurement. Only inhale, exhale, and the soft ground of being that holds it all. You are safe here, you are enough here, and nothing more is required of you tonight. The story has paused, the becoming has stopped. You have come home. Let go, breathe, and as silence deepens, Once the mind softens and the roles dissolve, something deeper arises. A longing, not for more doing, not for more thinking, but for connection. A quiet yearning to feel warmth, to feel belonging, to feel that your heart in its raw openness is not only allowed, but welcomed. From that space, rest becomes more than physical recovery. It becomes nourishment, not only for the body and nervous system, but for the deeper layers of the self that long for wholeness. This is where the Brahma Viharas appear, not as lofty concepts, not as distant ideals, but as living practices of the heart. The divine abodes metta, karuna, mudita, and upekha, not because they are far away, but because they are always here, waiting, places within you where the heart can rest. They are not ideas, they are invitations, and when carried into the night, they reshape how you hold your day, your mind, your past, your future, and most of all, how you hold yourself as you drift into sleep. We begin with metta, loving kindness. It is the foundation, not a feeling you must force, but an intention, a gentle wish. May there be safety, may there be ease, may there be peace. Begin by offering it to yourself, not only in words, but in how you hold your own attention. Let the tone of the inner voice soften, let judgment dissolve. Let the critic step aside, whisper inwardly, may I be safe, may I be well, may I rest with ease. This is not performance, this is remembrance that beneath all striving, beneath all becoming, you are worthy of care. The mind may resist, it may whisper, you didn't do enough today to deserve this. That's okay, offer the wish anyway. Even if it feels mechanical at first, even if the heart feels numb, let the intention remain steady. May I be free from harm. May I feel love. May I sleep in peace. And slowly, gently, the heart begins to respond, because kindness is not something you wait to feel. It is something you practice into being. Once metta begins to settle, the heart opens to karuna, compassion, not as an idea, but as a response to pain, to the ache that still lingers in your body, to the emotions that did not fully release, to the tightness that still edges your breath. Bring awareness here, to any place where the day remains heavy, and instead of pushing it away, meet it with care. These hurts, and that's okay. May this pain soften. May I hold it with gentleness. Not fixing, not forcing, simply allowing pain to be met with tenderness instead of resistance. Compassion does not mean indulging in pain. It means creating space for pain to be seen and held without fear. You can extend this compassion not only to yourself, but outward to all who struggled today. Bring to mind someone who suffered, whether close or far, a stranger, a friend, a loved one in conflict, or even someone unseen. Whisper inwardly, may they be held, may their pain ease, may they feel supported. This isn't about solving their problems, it's about remembering their humanity, carrying them gently in your heart. And as you do, notice the heart itself widen. That widening makes room for the next quality, mudita, sympathetic joy. This one can be difficult at first, but it unlocks an immense well of lightness. Let your heart open to the joy of others. Think of someone who laughed today, someone who found peace, someone who succeeded, even in a small way. Instead of comparison, offer gladness. May their joy continue. May it grow. Now remember your own joy, even the smallest flickers, a kind exchange, a deep breath, a moment of gratitude, a burst of laughter. You don't need to cling to it or make it last. Just feel it. This was real. This happened. Let your heart glow in remembrance. Joy that is not tied to ownership becomes freedom. It unknots envy, softens resentment. dissolves scarcity. It teaches the nervous system that goodness is not rare, that joy belongs to no one, and yet touches everyone. Then, the final quality, opika, equanimity, the steady balance of the heart, the deep calm, knowing that all things rise and pass, that outcomes are uncertain, that control is limited, that life will not always match the mind's idea of fairness, and yet it moves with a rhythm far beyond what we can grasp. Equanimity is not numbness, it is steadiness. It allows you to hold both joy and sorrow without being broken by either. It whispers, I care, but I will not cling. I feel, but I will not collapse. I am present, but I do not need to control. Let this energy wash over you now, a quiet strength, not rigid, not forceful, but grounded, like a tree in soft wind, rooted, responsive, unshaken. Together, these four qualities become a bed for the heart, not metaphor, but reality. As you settle into sleep, let them cradle you. No order is required. Let Mala hold your breath. Let Karuna soften your muscles. Let Mudita warm your chest. Let Opka quiet your thoughts. You don't need to concentrate. You don't need to try. This is not a method for better sleep. It is sleep as practice, sleep as offering, sleep as surrender. You are not trying to get anywhere. You are not practicing to change. You are practicing to care for your heart exactly as it is, to let it rest in something real. If thoughts arise, do not resist them. Simply meet them with the right quality. A harsh thought, soften it with metta. A painful memory, cradle it with karuna. A bitter comparison, lighten it with mudita. A surge of overwhelm, steady it with upekka. Each one becomes a tool, each one becomes a doorway. Eventually, the thinking slows, the heart quiets, the body lets go, not all at once, but enough to allow sleep to arrive and wrap you in stillness, to return you to yourself. This is the divine home, not distant, not hidden. Here, in the middle of the night, with no temple, no ritual, only breath, only care, only present. And from this home you can finally rest. Let yourself remain here. There is nowhere else to go. You are not late. You are not wrong. You are not unfinished. You are whole. And the heart knows what to do. Let it rest. Let it soften. Let it return to kind. Sleep will follow, not as interruption to the path, but as part of the path itself. The heart has softened. The mind is quieter. You have met the night, not with resistance, but with care. Loving kindness, compassion, joy, and balance have woven a resting place. And now something deeper calls to be touched, not with thought, not with reflection, but with awareness. Not the awareness that analyzes, but the awareness that feels, the awareness that listens to what has always been here. Wait. Kayanaposana, mindfulness of the body, is the practice of direct connection. It gathers the wandering mind and places it here in the living truth of form, not to control, not to fix, not to force stillness, but to see clearly, kindly, completely. For sleep, this practice is not just useful, it is sacred, because while the mind can release thought and the heart can soften around emotion, the body must be felt before it can release what it carries. And release does not come through effort, it comes through presence, through noticing without pressure, through allowing without demand. Begin to feel the body not as one solid block, but as a field of living sensation, each area alive in its own way, each part telling its own quiet story. Let awareness move through this field like water meeting earth, gentle, steady, nourishing. No digging, no rushing, just visiting, Start at the top of the head. Feel the scalp, the forehead. Notice, is there tension, warmth, coolness, tingling, stillness? You are not here to judge, only to notice. Let awareness drop into the eyes, the small muscles around them. Let them soften, sink back into their sockets. Then move to the jaw, the mouth, the back of the neck. Each place a doorway, each part a mess. Mindfulness of the body is not about hunting for pain. It is about intimacy, about being close to the simple truth of being alive. This body breathes. This body rests. This body carries you every day. It deserves to be seen, not as a machine, not as a burden, but as a temple of presence. Now bring your attention to the shoulders. Feel them rise and fall with each breath. Feel the heaviness they carry, not just from posture, but from the invisible burdens of the day, responsibility, stress, unspoken emotions. Let them be heavy now. Let them sink into the surface beneath you. Let the earth hold what you no longer need to carry. Move gently down the arms. Notice the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, the palms, each finger. You don't need to tighten or stretch. Just know they are there. The body relaxes more deeply when it feels seen. Your attention is not neutral, it is healing. Each moment of mindful awareness guides the nervous system closer to rest, not because you are doing, but because you have stopped resisting. Bring awareness now to the chest, not just the breath, but the whole heart space. The lungs expanding, releasing, expanding again. Let them move freely, without your help. This rhythm is life itself. Ancient, reliable, steady. It has always been here, carrying you. Let attention drift to the belly. Notice if there is holding here. Many carry tension in the abdomen without knowing tightness born of worry, urgency, fear. The gut is sensitive. Let the breath move gently through this space. No control, no shaping, just presence. Let the muscles soften. Let the organs settle. Let the belly loosen and open. Now move awareness to the hips, the pelvis, the thighs. These are the great, each point where your body meets the surface beneath you. The bed, the floor, the earth is not passive. These are anchors. Feel them. Notice the way they hold you. Grounding, steady. When mindfulness rests in the body, the mind naturally slows. Not because you command it, but because thinking becomes less compelling. The body is more vivid than the stories. Sensation is more alive than the narrative. The breath more soothing than the noise. This is not detachment, it is return. Most of the day is lived above the neck, thinking, analyzing, preparing. But your life is not just in the head, it is in the skin, the heartbeat, the lungs, the weight of your form. When you return to the body, you return to wholeness, and wholeness leads to rest. Kayanopasana, mindfulness of the body, is not about fixing posture. It is about feeling it. Notice the way your spine curves, the way gravity draws you downward. Notice the stillness and the subtle movements. Nothing needs to change, only to be known. Notice the breath. It moves like a wave, rising, falling, expanding, releasing. Each cycle reminding you the body is doing its job, supporting you, serving you, trusting you to meet it with kindness. This mindfulness is not effortful doing. It is intimacy, meeting what is here without resistance. When you feel the body clearly, much of what you called anxiety begins to dissolve. Tightness in the belly was never fear, it was sensation waiting to be felt. Shallow breath was not panic, it was a rhythm waiting to be noticed. When sensations are met directly, they soften. The body calms when it is not abandoned. Sleep does not require complete stillness. It requires safety, and safety begins with attention. When the body is seen without judgment, it begins to trust again. It lets go. It rests. This is not something to master. It is something to return to. Every night, the body is different. Every breath carries new textures. You don't need to compare. You don't need to evaluate. You only need to feel. If the mind wanders, return to sensation, not through force, but through curiosity. What does the hand feel like now? How cool or warm is the breath? What weight presses into the surface below? Let sensation be your anchor. Let awareness be your home. Kayanapasana also reminds us of the body's impermanence. This body changes, it ages, it heals, it responds. Change is not failure, it is life. You are not trapped in this form, you are living through it. And when you care for it with presence, it becomes refuge. Now let the breath be central, not sharp, not narrow, but gentle, open, like a breeze through a forest. It touches each part, clears what is stagnant, softens what is tight, nourishes what is weary. There is no perfect way, only the invitation to stay close. Not drifting too far into thought, not floating away into abstraction. Staying here, breath, body, awareness. Why can't I just let go? This question often rises not from the body, but from the clinging of identity, a sense of me wrapped tightly around a moment it cannot control. This is where the practice of non-self becomes essential. Anatta, one of the Buddha's core insights, is not a denial of your existence. It is not a rejection of personality. It is clear, seeing recognition that what we call me is not one solid thing, but a flowing collection of thoughts, sensations, roles, and memories, constantly shifting, never fixed. When insomnia arises, the suffering is rarely in the wakefulness itself. It lies in the personal story that forms around it. I am failing. I should be asleep. Something must be wrong with me. These are not neutral observations. They are identity statements. They take a temporary condition and turn it into a personal flaw. But through the lens of non-self, these stories unravel. Who is this I that isn't sleeping? Where is this fixed identity that insists on control? What happens if you stop identifying with the struggle? The practice is not to suppress thoughts, but to see through them. A thought arises, I can't sleep. Notice it as an event, not a fact. It is simply a thought, not a truth. It has no owner. It appears, it lingers, it fades. You did not create it. You do not need to follow it. When there is no self clinging to a thought, it loses its weight. An Atai invites you to observe experience without claiming it as mine. This body lies in bed. Sensations arise. Thoughts pass. None of them define you. There is no fixed self inside failing to rest. There is only process, breath, sound, sensation, silence, appearing and disappearing without a center. This shift does not require effort. It requires honesty. Start with what is here. Now there is a thought, saying, this should feel different. See it, let it float. Then ask gently, what makes this thought feel like mine? Is there really a self holding it together, or is it just a familiar echo, repeating itself out of habit? Insomnia grows heavier with identification. The tension comes not from being awake, but from believing that wakefulness is my problem. But when ownership dissolves, the weight loosens. Being awake is no longer a crisis. It becomes just another state, like hunger, like warmth, like stillness, not a verdict, not a failure. Even the phrase, I can't sleep, contracts around identity. It defines you in terms of what is absent. But if there is no fixed I at the center of that story, the whole structure collapses. What remains is simply wakefulness, without resistance. And in that space, rest can begin. This doesn't mean sleep arrives instantly. It means the war with the night ends. The urgency fades. Peace has room to grow. Non-self also reveals something deeper about suffering. We often believe there is a me being punished, a me who deserves better or worse. But suffering doesn't require a self. It only requires attachment to impermanent things. Sleep is one of those things, desired, chased, clung to, and when it doesn't come, we blame the imagined self. But under the light of anatta, that blame dissolves. The you who couldn't sleep last night is not the same as the you lying here now. The stream has moved, the body has shifted, the mind has changed. You are not constant, so why carry the same narrative across states that never last? Let the thought, I am a bad sleeper, appear. Look at it clearly. Is it a fact, or is it just the habit of identity speaking? Has it always been true? Does it serve peace? With deep looking, these identity thoughts begin to unravel. What's left is presence, breath, body, no label, no judgment. Anatta also softens perfectionism. The mind whispers, there must be a right way to sleep. My practice must deliver results. I must be the peaceful one, the disciplined one, the meditator who gets it right. The freedom is this, to experience life without carrying the burden of being someone inside it. You are not the thoughts about sleep. You are not the one judging the breath. You are not the voice predicting tomorrow's exhaustion. These are processes, movements of mind. They happen on their own, like clouds passing through the sky. You don't need to own them. You don't need to stop them. You only need to see them as they are, temporary, impersonal, fading. This perspective is not disconnection. It is a deeper connection, not with the story of self, but with what is actually here. And when the narrative dissolves, the senses return with freshness, the feel of the blanket, the sound of night air, the gentle rhythm of the breath, simple, vivid, immediate. None of these require identity. They only ask for attention. As attention settles, the need for identity fades. The mind no longer searches for someone to be. There is just seeing, just knowing, just being, not as a self, but as awareness itself. And this awareness resists nothing. It does not demand sleep. It does not argue with wakefulness. It simply witnesses. And in that witnessing, peace arises. This is the practice, not a method, not a goal, but a direct seeing, again and again. When the mind says, I am awake, you notice there is wakefulness. When the mind says, I am failing, you notice there is judgment, no pushback, no fight, just seeing. Over time, the mind learns this new pattern. There is no you to protect, no you to defend, no you to fix. There are only moments unfolding, experiences flowing, no center, no stuckness, no self to cling. Even if insomnia still arises, it will no longer define you. It will not harden into suffering. It will come as a visitor, temporary, harmless, and perhaps without the story, it may pass more quickly, or perhaps not. But either way, peace is the same, because peace was never about sleep. It was always about release. Now, as you lie here, return once more to the breath. Let go of the one who tracks it. Let go of the one who tries. Just feel, just be, the body resting, without needing to be anyone. The thoughts rising, without needing to belong to them. Sleep may come, or it may not. It does not define anything. You are already whole, already free. The night holds you without needing your name. The grip of identity has loosened. You have begun to witness experience as it is, without placing yourself at the center of every thought. The belief I am failing has softened into the awareness that thoughts, sensations, moods, they all come and go on their own without defining who you are. But even with this clarity, another layer sometimes lingers beneath wakefulness. A layer not born from what is happening, but from how you respond to it. It is not the experience itself that causes the deepest suffering. It is the way we carry it forward, long after the moment has passed. This is where the teaching of the second arrow appears. The Buddha explained, when something painful happens, that is the first arrow. Life doing what life does. A difficulty, a discomfort, a flash of sadness, of frustration, of disappointment. This is unavoidable. This is part of being human. But then the mind often reacts with judgment, resistance, blame. That is the second arrow, and it cuts deeper, sharper, lasting longer than the first. It is suffering created in the mind. At night, the second arrow often hides in replayed thoughts. Maybe something went wrong today. Someone spoke harshly. You made a mistake. You forgot something important. These are first arrows, painful but fleeting. The second arrow comes when the mind whispers, "Why did I do that? What's wrong with me? I always fail. I should have known better." The first arrow was a moment. The second arrow is the story wrapped around it. The story that keeps stabbing the wound again and again. And often, at night, the second arrow disguises itself as reflection. But it is not clarity. It is punishment. You may feel like you are reviewing the day, but really, you are rehearsing the same criticism, hoping it will change something already gone. The past cannot be rewritten, no matter how often the mind replays it. What can change is the weight you decide to carry from it into the present moment, especially into your rest. The very first step toward peace is recognizing this distinction. Begin by noticing the nature of your thoughts. Are they simply pointing out a fact, naming what happened, or are they weaving additional stories about what it means? For example, "I forgot to send the message" is a bare truth, a fact, a simple observation. That is the first arrow. But then the mind continues, whispering, "I'm irresponsible. People must be disappointed in me. I always fail." That is the second arrow. One arrow is inevitable in life. The other is unnecessary suffering layered on top by the mind's habit of judgment. The practice is learning to pause before firing that second arrow. Or, if you've already shot it, to recognize it and gently remove it rather than leaving it lodged in your. When the mind is no longer a battlefield, clarity has space to arise. When self-punishment softens, rest begins to feel natural again. The second arrow does not always take the shape of guilt. It can just as easily disguise itself as anxiety. You feel tired, but cannot rest because your mind has leapt ahead into tomorrow's uncertainties. The first arrow is the unknown itself. The second is the chain reaction of imagined disasters, rehearsed failures, and self-blame for events that have not even happened. Perhaps you find yourself thinking, what if I ruin tomorrow's presentation? What if I embarrass myself? Already the second arrow has been fired. The future hasn't arrived, yet the suffering is here now, built from thought alone. Let go of the belief that suffering in advance somehow prepares you for peace. Let go of the idea that punishing Buddhist tonight will protect you tomorrow. The second arrow likes to pretend it is useful, whispering that worry equals responsibility, or that guilt equals growth. But in truth, all it does is rob you of clarity, erode your rest, and weaken your ability to respond wisely when the actual moment comes. So tonight, notice what you're carrying, not only in your body, like heaviness in the chest or tightness in the shoulders, but also in the tone and texture of your thoughts. Ask yourself, is this pain the original wound, or is it something I'm continuing to hold on to? If it is the second arrow, allow it to fall away. You don't need to keep stabbing yourself to prove that you care. Compassion doesn't deny pain. It sees it clearly and then softens around it. It does not tighten. It does not condemn. You can place a hand gently on your chest, take a slow breath, and offer yourself a silent phrase. This is painful, and I don't need to make it worse. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. It is the moment when the spiral of thought is interrupted. It is the moment when the cycle of reaction no longer feeds itself. The mind, having seen its own habit, chooses something different. That is the distinction between pain and suffering. Pain belongs to the world. It is part of life. A cut, a loss, a mistake. Suffering is what we do with it. Pain is the broken glass on the floor. Suffering is choosing to walk across it again and again, long after we've seen it. The second arrow keeps us caught in that loop. Awareness gives us the freedom to step aside. Sometimes the second arrow is subtle, almost disguised as reason. It sounds like, I should have known better, or that wasn't good enough. At first, these thoughts seem practical, like they might help, but beneath them lies blame, a reinforcement of the belief that you are always falling short, that something inside you is fundamentally lacking. Growth does not require shame. Rest does not require perfection, and peace never arrives by punishing yourself into worthiness. At night, this is especially important. The nervous system is tender, more open, more sensitive. Memories feel sharper, emotions more present, and the mind more vulnerable to these arrows. This is why awareness matters deeply before rest. Protect your sleep not by forcing yourself into cheerful thoughts, but by refusing to feed the painful ones that serve no purpose. If you notice your mind beginning to spiral, pause and ask what is true right now, not what was true earlier, not what might be true tomorrow, but in this precise moment. What is true? You are here. You are breathing. The bed supports your body. The air is still. The world has paused. That is reality. Let your mind rest in it. Allow the stories to drop away. If you must name the hurt, do so gently. Say, this was hard. I'm still learning. That is enough. You do not need to dissect every detail. You do not need to reopen the wound each night. Healing happens not through constant reopening, but through seeing once, clearly, and then holding with kindness. And so, before sleep, this becomes your practice. Meeting what hurts with compassion, noticing the difference between the first arrow and the second, and choosing not to continue the cycle of self-inflicted suffering. This is how you create the conditions for rest. This is how peace begins, not in controlling the past or predicting the future, but in releasing the send arrow tonight. Recognize the first arrow. Notice it for what it is, a moment of pain, an inevitable sting that life delivers. But avoid the second. The second arrow is not fate. It is choice. It is the unnecessary weight added by thought, by judgment, by the mind insisting on replaying and rewriting what has already passed. When you feel tension rise in your chest or your jaw tighten, pause and ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this kind? Is this useful? If the answer is no, then it does not deserve your attention. You do not have to feed it. You can let it float. You can let it dissolve. You can let it pass, the way all things eventually do. To help yourself release, you may offer a simple phrase, a gentle ritual to close the day. Whatever happened, I did my best. Whatever I missed, I will face tomorrow. Tonight, I do not need to fix it. Let these words be like a gate closing behind you, a soft threshold that signals to your mind that the day is complete. Nothing more is required. No corrections, no revisions, no midnight self-lectures. Only rest. Because you are not your mistakes. You are not the unfinished tasks that whisper from your to-do list. You are not the memory of your worst moments. And you are certainly not the inner critic that insists you are failing. That voice is not truth. It is old, conditioned, a shadow from the past that does not belong to this moment. Tonight, you do not have to listen. Tonight, you can put the arrows down. Allow your body to unclench. Let your breath arrive without judgment. Allow your heart to remain open. You are safe in this moment. You are supported. Rest is not a prize to be earned. It is your birthright, part of the rhythm of being human. When you stop stabbing yourself with the second arrow, peace finds space to return. Let that space widen. Let the night unfold without resistance. You have already done enough. Now you are free to sleep. No more arrows, no more harm, only breath, only stillness, only the softness that appears on the other side of forgiveness. You have seen how pain grows heavier when the mind layers on stories of blame. You have recognized that the second arrow, the unnecessary suffering, can be dropped. The stories do not need repeating. The judgments do not need to be believed. What remains when all that falls away is a quiet space, a sacred stillness. But even this quiet must be cared for. Otherwise, the momentum of mental chatter, the endless speech, thinking and commentary, continues long after everything else has been put down. This is why releasing the second arrow is only the beginning. Once it falls away, you are invited to protect the silence that remains. This is where the practice of noble silence begins. Noble silence is not only the absence of words, it is the conscious devotion to peace, the vow to stop feeding noise in every form. It is not avoidance, it is reverence. Reverence for clarity, for stillness, for a mind that no longer echoes with unfinished conversations or imaginary rehearsals. And this silence is not empty. It is spacious, alive, and sacred. It is a vow not only to quiet the tongue, but also to quiet the restless habit of filling every pause with more commentary. After sunset, the mind loves to stir. It replays the day, rewrites what was said, rehearses what might be said tomorrow. The hidden belief is, if I just keep talking out loud or in my head, I'll eventually find peace. But talking rarely resolves. Talking reactivates. Even internal speech keeps the nervous system alert, spinning thoughts like a wheel that cannot stop turning. Noble silence offers a different way. It offers rest from the constant narration. It says, you don't have to comment on every thought. You don't have to prepare every response. You don't have to explain yourself endlessly, even to yourself. It is a resting place for the voice that always believes it must speak. This silence is not harsh. It does not shut others out with force. Instead, it is chosen gently as a preference for stillness over stimulation. You can begin by shaping your environment. As night falls, lower the lights, reduce sound, step away from the pull of screens. Let your body learn through these small signals that nothing more is needed. The conversations can wait. The messages can wait. The world can wait. Right now, your presence is enough. Internally, noble silence means no more mental rehearsals, no more replays of what already happened, no more imaginary arguments that never existed outside your head. If a thought arises, notice it and let it pass. You do not need to respond. You do not need to complete the sentence. You do not need to fix the story tonight. Make a quiet agreement with yourself. Anything not related to peace can wait until morning. This silence also extends to the heart. Emotional stillness means the silence becomes more than absence. It becomes a presence in itself, a comfort, a companion, a vast and tender space where you are allowed to simply exist, without performance, without justification, without needing to prove anything to anyone, not even to yourself. In this silence, you are freed from the endless choreography of thought. There is no role to play, no script to follow, no judgment to anticipate. You are allowed to just be. And in that being, something soft begins to happen. The body listens. It recognizes the invitation. Muscles unclench. Shoulders sink lower. The breath, no longer interrupted by commentary, finds its natural rhythm, slow, steady, unforced. The heartbeat, once quickened by inner debate and replayed conversations, slows down, reassured by the quiet. This silence speaks to the nervous system more powerfully than any words. You are safe. You can let go now. This is why, in monastic traditions, noble silence is not limited to night. It extends into daily living, into meals eaten in quiet reverence, into chores performed with attention but without chatter, into walks where only the rhythm of footsteps and the sound of wind exist. This is not isolation, but communion with presence, with awareness itself, with the life that unfolds beyond the veil of words. You do not need to become a monk to taste this freedom. You can choose it in your own home, in your own rhythm. Dedicate certain hours each evening to silence. Let your phone rest as you would a tired child. Allow unanswered messages to wait. If you live with others, you can gently share that this is your time for stillness, not to retreat from them, but to return to yourself. You do not have to vanish, just speak less, and when words do come, let them arise from calm rather than from habit. Inside, this practice becomes even more radical. Instead of rehearsing tomorrow's conversations, allow them to remain unwritten. Instead of explaining your feelings to yourself yet again, sit with them in quiet companionship, as you would sit beside a close friend who needs no words. The future can arrive on its own, without rehearsal. The past can stay where it belongs. And as you practice, something remarkable begins to appear. The beauty of silence itself. You realize silence is not a void, but a vast field of presence. It is alive, full, complete. It holds everything without needing to shape it. Out of this field arises a kind of wisdom that cannot be forced by thinking. It is the wisdom of listening, the wisdom that hears not just the obvious, but the subtle, the hush of your own breath, the settling of the house, the distant hum of life, continuing beyond your walls. These sounds are not interruptions. They are reminders that life does not require your narration to go on. In this silence, insights may come clear, gentle, and whole, yet you don't need to capture them, don't need to translate them into language. Not all truths must be spoken. Some are meant to be felt, to be lived. Silence teaches you this. Your relationship with sleep transforms as well. Sleep is no longer a reluctant surrender, no longer the shutting down of a busy day. It becomes a continuation of silence, a deepening of rest, the place where even thought dissolves. Noble silence prepares the mind for this descent, teaching it to release, teaching it to trust the quiet. And when you wake in the middle of the night, as minds sometimes do, you need not restart the chatter. You do not need to calculate the hours until morning or review the list of undone tasks. You can simply return to silence. You can renew the vow in that very moment. No more words, not aloud, not inside, not now. This vow is not harsh. It is not a denial of life. It is an offering of kindness to yourself, to your mind, to your body that has labored enough under the weight of constant commentary. You have thought enough, solved enough, explained enough for one day. Tonight, you are allowed to rest in stillness. Let this be your quiet commitment, that no more words will be added to the day, neither spoken nor rehearsed in your mind, that silence will hold you, cradle you, and do the healing that words cannot. Tomorrow, the world will return with its demands, but tonight, silence is your sanctuary. Let it deepen, let it surround you, let it become the soft language of your sleep. And as this silence settles, not just around you, but within, you begin to see what stillness reveals. Often, throughout the day, we move quickly and unconsciously, taking for granted the extraordinary fact that our bodies function at all. The ability to breathe without effort, to move our arms and legs, to digest food, to see, to speak. These are miracles we rarely pause to notice. They are not promised, they are not guaranteed. When we reflect on sickness, we do not do so to invite fear, we do so to invite gratitude. Sickness reminds us of what we often overlook, even when the body aches, even when it feels tired or carries pain, it is still here, carrying you. Tonight, your body still breathes, it still allows you to rest. And for this moment, that is everything. You can bring gentle awareness to any part of your body that feels discomfort, not to resist it, not to analyze or fix it, simply to witness it with respect, as though bowing silently before it. You can say quietly, this too is part of being alive. This too is welcome. Sickness does not mean failure. It does not mean you have done something wrong. It is simply the body doing what bodies do, changing, responding, healing, adapting. When you let go of the belief that health is a permanent right, health begins to feel like a gift. That het humbles pride and opens the heart. The second messenger is aging, the most constant companion of life. Aging is not something that waits for later. It is happening in this very moment. From the instant of birth, the process begins, and it never stops. Every cell shifts. Every breath carries you further along the arc of time. And this is not punishment, it is the natural unfolding of life. At night, you may feel this truth more vividly. You may notice the stiffness in your joints, the way fatigue feels heavier than it once did. You may remember a time when sleep arrived without effort, when energy seemed endless. This is not weakness, this is truth. And truth, when received without resistance, becomes peace. Aging teaches us that we cannot move backward, that clinging to old versions of ourselves only creates suffering. But in release, we discover freedom. You are not who you once were. You are not yet who you will be. You are here, in this moment, in this version of your body, in this precise chapter of your life. And this moment deserves your full attention, not because it will last, but because it won't. There is beauty in change. The lines on your face are not losses, they are stories. The softness in your body is not failure, it is experience. The fatigue in your muscles is not defeat, it is proof of a day lived. Nothing has been wasted, nothing has been lost. Everything is being transformed. To reflect on aging is not to grieve what has gone, it is to honor what is here. It is to say yes to the truth of life. Even when it arrives with reminders of limitation, aging strips away illusion. And in that stripping away, it reveals clarity. The third messenger is death, the most avoided and yet the most important. Death is not here to terrify, it is here to illuminate. Not because it ends everything, but because it sharpens what matters. Death is not a punishment waiting at the horizon. It is woven into every moment. A breath ends. A thought dissolves. A season closes. A chapter in your life concludes. Eventually, this body too will return to the earth, not because something has gone wrong, but because this is the way of all things. This reflection is not morbid, it is liberating, for when you remember that life is finite, the small annoyances lose their grip, the fear of judgment loosens, the urge to control everything fades. Suddenly, what is truly important becomes unmistakably clear. You see that rest, here and now, in this quiet room, is not something to struggle for, it is something to receive. You do not know how many nights remain, but you have this one. You do not know how many breaths remain, but you have this one, and this one is enough. When you allow death to sit beside you, not as a shadow, not as a threat, but as a teacher, you feel time differently. It slows down, it sweetens, it softens its edges. You begin to live more gently, not frantically. This awareness also brings forgiveness. When you see clearly that life is short, grudges shrink. The need for perfection dissolves. You recognize how much time has been spent worrying about what will not matter in the end. And suddenly, you feel permission to let go, to drop the heavy stories, to release the arrows of self-attack, to sleep without needing everything solved. These three messengers, sickness, aging, and death, are not here to frighten. They are here to awaken. They are here to remind you to see what is already here. A body, a breath, a moment. When you receive them without denial, a new kind of rest becomes possible. Not the restless rest of distraction, but the deep rest of truth. You can close your eyes and thank your body for carrying you today, for showing up even when it was weary. You can thank the process of aging for its lessons, for softening pride, for deepening compassion, for showing you what truly matters. And you can thank the presence of death, not as an end, but as a reminder that this night is sacred, that your rest is not just useful, it is beautiful. Let gratitude grow quietly, without force. Let it spread like warmth through every part of you, not as words, but as presence. Let the messengers stand beside you in peace. They are not here to take anything away. They are here to give perspective, and perspective, in its purest form, is the beginning of wisdom. You are alive now. You are breathing now. You are present now. And with this awareness, the night no longer holds fear. It holds stillness. It holds clarity. It holds the possibility of peace. And eventually, it holds sleep. Let it come without resistance, without more words, only silence, only rest. Let it come without pretending. Let forgiveness arrive, not as performance, not as a demand to feel differently than you do, but as a soft thank you to life itself. The messengers have already done their work. They have shown you the truths of sickness, of aging, of death. They have stripped away the noise and revealed what is fragile, what is precious, what is real. And now, in this softened space, there remains one final threshold before rest. Sometimes it is not the mind's chatter or the body's discomfort that blocks sleep. It is the heart that still clings. It clings to arguments, to regrets, to betrayals, to words spoken or unspoken that continue to echo long after the day has ended. The body may be lying still, but the heart is clenched, gripping tightly to wounds it does not want to release. This is why forgiveness matters here, at night, before rest. In the Kakakupama Sutta, the Buddha offers one of the most striking images in the Pali Canon, the simile of the saw. He tells his disciples that even if they were captured and cut apart, limb by limb, by bandits wielding a two-handed saw, they must not let anger arise in their hearts. At first glance, this sounds impossible, even unreasonable. But the teaching is not about accepting cruelty as right. It is about recognizing the deeper truth that hatred poisons the heart more deeply than any blade can wound the body. The harm inflicted by others may cut once, but the hatred we continue to carry cuts again and again, night after night. The mind replays what was done, what was said, how unfair it was. Each replay reopens the wound. Each thought is a fresh incision. The Buddha's simile is meant to be extreme, so that the mind can finally see what it resists. That forgiveness is not a gift to the other person, it is freedom for yourself. Forgiveness does not say, "What happened was okay." Forgiveness says, "I refuse to keep carrying this pain inside me. I will not keep stabbing myself with memory." It is the decision to put down the weapon you picked up in response, to stop cutting yourself with the blade of resentment. At night, when distractions fade, these wounds often resurface most clearly. The mind reopens the courtroom, calls the witnesses, builds the case all over again. You argue silently with someone who is not in the room. You defend yourself to a memory. But notice, no one else is here. The person who hurt you is not beside your bed. Only the thought remains, only the echo, only the roles you keep rehearsing, and you have the power to end the play. This doesn't mean denying the pain. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't matter. It means refusing to let it rule you any longer. It means reclaiming your rest. Because when you carry anger into bed, your body will lie down, but your spirit stays at war. When you forgive, your bed becomes not a battleground, but a temple. You can begin quietly, bring to mind someone you still resent. You do not need to justify or explain, just acknowledge their presence in memory. And then, with the softest intention, say inside yourself, "I release you, I release myself. I refuse to carry this into my rest." That is enough. Forgiveness is not about feeling a sudden warmth. It begins with willingness. Willingness is the... And perhaps, as you sit with this, you notice that the hardest person to forgive is yourself. This is common. The voice of self-judgment is often harsher than any critic outside. Mistakes are replayed. Regrets are magnified. You scratch at your own scars until they bleed again. But tonight, you can choose differently. You can place a hand on your chest and whisper, "I did the best I could with what I knew. I am still learning. I release myself. I forgive this part of me." You don't need to erase the past. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You only need to stop punishing yourself for being human. Forgiveness here is not weakness. It is strength. The strength to rest without armor. The strength to sleep without carrying a sword into your dreams. And so, as the night deepens, let forgiveness be your final act of devotion. The simile teaches us what is often hardest to admit, that clinging to anger, even when justified, does nothing but deepen our own suffering. Even if the person who hurt you never apologizes, even if the harm remains unacknowledged, even if the story never resolves in the way you wanted, your peace does not require their participation. Your sleep does not depend on their agreement. You do not need to wait for justice to allow yourself to rest. The mind may protest. It may insist, "If I forgive, won't they get away with it?" Let the mind speak its fear, and then gently remind it, forgiveness does not erase accountability. Forgiveness does not dissolve the need for boundaries. Justice can still happen. Protection can still be honored, but hatred is not required. Carrying venom in your own heart punishes no one but yourself. You can guard your life without punishing your spirit. At bedtime, grudges grow louder. Old wounds rise to the surface because the distractions of the day have faded. This is why the practice of forgiveness matters most here. Not because it is easy, but because it is healing. Forgiveness at night is not a gift to the one who harmed you. It is a kindness you extend to yourself, so you no longer have to dream inside the walls of pain. And if forgiveness feels impossible, then begin smaller. Begin with forgiving the difficulty itself. Whisper to yourself, I don't know how to let this go yet, and that's okay. I will sit with it without turning it into poison. I will stay soft even if I'm not ready. This too is the beginning of freedom. The body can guide you. If your chest feels tight, invite the breath gently into that space. If your jaw is clenched, let it loosen. These places carry the weight of what you resist. Meet them with patience, with presence, with kindness. Forgiveness is not an abstract idea. It lives in the body, unfolding as ease. With practice, you begin to see how much energy anger requires. You begin to notice how exhausting it is to keep track of every wrong, to rehearse every insult, to define yourself by wounds long past. And then, one night, quietly, unexpectedly, you may feel something drop away, a weight you didn't realize you were holding, a story you no longer need, a name that no longer stings. That is the moment the simile fulfills its purpose. You see clearly that peace was never about what happened. Peace was always about how long you kept holding on. That is the moment you put down the saw. You step out of the scene, and for the first time in a long time, your heart is free to rest. Let this be your closing act tonight. Not another conversation, not another explanation, but a silent offering. I forgive what I can. I hold gently what I cannot. I choose peace over memory. I choose rest over rumination. I offer this night to something greater than pain. There is nothing more to do now. No fight to replay. No punishment to carry. Let the night be soft. Let the breath be slow. Let the heart be light. And let sleep come, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer demanding it to be. You have chosen forgiveness, and that is enough. Now, in this space of letting go, you arrive at a threshold you cross every night without noticing, a mystery so familiar it feels ordinary, the moment of falling asleep, the crossing from waking to not waking, the quiet ending of everything you were today, the beginning of something you cannot yet name. Sleep is not just rest. Sleep is release. Sleep is surrender. It is its own kind of ending. And with every ending, something new waits quietly on the other side. In Buddhist teaching, rebirth is not only about what happens after death. It is about what happens now, in this very life from moment to moment. You are being reborn constantly in every thought, in every feeling, in every choice. Sleep is one of the most profound expressions of this cycle. Every time you close your eyes, something in you dissolves, identity loosens, the thinking mind fades, the illusion of control slips away. This is why many fear death, because they fear the unknown of letting go, and yet they practice it every night. They surrender daily. They rehearse release without even realizing it. Death is not a single distant event. It is reflected in every transition, in every silence, in every moment of surrender. When you begin to look at sleep in this way, it becomes more than a biological function. It becomes a teacher, a rehearsal for freedom, a reminder of impermanence, a gentle echo of the truth that nothing is held forever, not even the self. This is why insomnia so often arrives when the mind grasps too tightly, because sleep cannot be commanded, only welcomed. It comes not when you wrestle it into being, but when you let everything else go. And if sleep is death in miniature, then waking is rebirth. Each morning, you return to form. You remember who you are, what you care about, what you must do. You re-enter the body, the personality, the memory, and with that return comes opportunity, the chance to begin again, not as the exact same person you were yesterday, but as someone newly shaped by the silence of the night, by the release that comes when clinging finally softens. When you embrace this view, the whole relationship with night shifts. Sleep is no longer an enemy to conquer. It becomes sacred. It becomes a pause in the endless cycle of becoming, a gentle rehearsal of the great letting go that will one day arrive for all of us. And waking becomes the miracle of renewal, the gift of returning. You can prepare for this shift with the simplest words. Now I release today, not because today was terrible, not because it needs to be erased, but because it does not need to be carried. Just as the breath enters and leaves, the day has entered and left. Holding on only interrupts the deeper rhythm the body already knows. Every night is an invitation to practice release, to let identity dissolve, to allow the self you worked so hard to maintain, to gently pause. Sleep teaches that you are not only one thing. You can be put down and picked up again. Awareness is not fragile, it is fluid. Even in sleep, something continues. The body breathes, the heart beats, the mind dreams. Consciousness moves through another landscape, wordless, effortless, without performance. And when you return lighter, clearer, renewed in ways that effort alone could never achieve. This is why the Buddha spoke so often of impermanence, of renewal, of cycles, not as abstract philosophy, but as daily practice. The more you see the cycles, the more lightly you live. You realize that nothing is fixed, not your fears, not your habits, not even your mistakes. Every ending is an opening. Every night is a reset. There is humility in this. You recognize that you cannot stay awake forever. Eventually, surrender comes. Sleep is not failure. It is nature. It is rhythm. It is return. And in surrender, peace arrives, not as loss, but as homecoming. You fall not into nothingness, but into spaciousness, into the formless place where you do not need to be anyone or prove anything. Let the day's achievements dissolve like sand through open fingers. Let the unfinished tasks go, knowing they may return tomorrow, but they do not belong here, not in this space, not in this hour. If fear arises with this letting go, let it be held gently. Fear is natural when control loosens, but you are not falling into danger, you are falling into trust. Trust in the breath that carries you without effort. Trust in the silence that has never harmed you. Trust in the vastness that has always held you. This is the wisdom of seeing sleep as a small death. You learn that nothing needs to be solved for rest to come, that not every story needs to be finished before it can be set down. In this way, rest becomes not only relief, but also teacher. And yet, even here, at the edge of surrender, something subtle may rise. The restless drive to prove, the itch to achieve, the quiet voice of comparison. Even in the softness of night, the pattern persists. It does not shout, it whispers. You haven't done enough. You should do more. You can't rest yet. This is an old wind. The Buddha called them the 8 worldly winds. Gain and loss, praise and blame, pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute. They blow through every life, through every season, through every body. No one escapes them, no matter how carefully you plan, no matter how tightly you hold. These winds shift. You may taste gain today and loss tomorrow. You may feel the sweetness of praise in one breath and the sting of blame in the next. Pleasure may lift you for a while, only for pain to follow. Fame may sparkle briefly before disrepute settles in its place. These winds are not personal. They are part of the weather of existence. The problem is not that they blow constantly. These 8 winds, sometimes filling your sails, sometimes knocking you off balance, but always in motion. You cannot stop them, you cannot predict them, and you cannot put a life free from their touch. But you can learn how to stand in their presence without being carried away. At night, when you lie down, the winds often circle back through memory. The mind whispers, did I do enough? Did I succeed or fail? Was I valued? Do I deserve to rest? These are not random questions. They are the voices of the winds, testing your balance, tugging at your worth. Begin gently by noticing which of these winds has visited you today. Did you feel the rush of gain, a success, a completion, a recognition, and find yourself clinging, hoping it will last? Did you feel the sting of loss, a missed opportunity, a closed door, a disappointment, and feel your mind spinning, trying to rewrite what has already happened? Both are tension. One is grasping, the other is resistant. Perhaps you received praise, sweet, uplifting, affirming, but notice how quickly praise becomes pressure. If they approve today, will they approve tomorrow? Will you meet their expectations again? The craving for praise births the fear of blame, and often blame does not even need to arrive. The fear of it is enough to keep the nervous system on edge, preventing the body from surrendering to sleep. Pleasure too stirs the mind. The joy of a moment of laughter, the delight of a good meal, the warmth of connection. These are natural, but the mind clings, replaying, protecting, reliving, and just as pleasure is clung to, pain is resisted. Whether physical or emotional, the reflex is to push it away, to ask, why me? How do I stop this? Yet in that resistance, a second arrow is fired. And then there is fame and disrepute, not only in the sense of public recognition, but in the simple human longing to be seen, understood, admired, or at least acknowledged. Its opposite is the fear of being invisible, dismissed, misunderstood. At night, you may find yourself replaying conversations, imagining how others perceived you, building stories that either validate or condemn your worth. But the Buddha's teaching is clear. These winds are not personal. They do not single you out. They are woven into the world itself. If you cling to them, you will suffer. If you attach your peace to gain, loss will unravel you. If you attach to praise, blame will crush you. If you chase pleasure, pain will undo you. If you define yourself by being seen, you will fear being forgotten. Letting go of these winds is not indifference. It is not apathy. It is freedom. Freedom is knowing your value does not rise or fall with outcomes. Freedom is remembering that you are not measured by external conditions, but by your clarity, by your ability to stand steady when the winds pass through. At bedtime, this freedom matters most. The body can only rest when the mind no longer feels the need to prove, when it stops comparing, when it no longer argues with how the day unfolded, when it stops keeping score. You can begin this release with a simple reflection. Recall the 8 winds quietly and name them, one by one. What did I gain today? What did I lose? What praise did I receive or crave? What blame did I fear or endure? What pleasures did I cling to? What pains did I resist? Where did I feel seen? Where did I feel unseen? Allow the answers to arise gently. Do not argue with them. Do not judge them. This is not confession, it is clarity. And then say inwardly, these are not who I am. These are conditions. They come, they go. They do not own me. Let that truth sink deeper than thought into the body. Let the shoulders drop. Let the breath slow. Let the invisible scoreboard dissolve. Feel the way tension begins to unravel when you no longer tie your worth to the winds. Beneath the movement of the winds, there is always stillness, like the deep ocean beneath the surface waves. That stillness is not disturbed by gain or loss. It does not rise with praise. It does not collapse under blame. It simply is. It is presence itself. Let your breath remind you of this. Each inhale whispers, I am not lacking. Each exhale whispers, I am not holding anything. This moment is already whole. Even if nothing was finished today, even if no one noticed your effort, even if the outcome was different than you hoped, you are still allowed to rest. Letting go of achievement is not failure. It is wisdom. It is remembering that you are not a product, that your value is not calculated by metrics, that rest is not a reward to be earned, but a rhythm to be honored as natural. You only need to be here. The winds may continue to blow, but you do not need to chase or run. You can rest exactly where you are, safe, steady, unmoved by comparison. From this stillness, sleep comes, not because every task has been completed or every thought silenced, but because you have stepped out of the spinning wheel. The world can continue to turn on its own. Let it. You are no longer bound to its restless momentum, at least not for tonight. You have remembered that you are not what happens to you. You are not your gains. You are not your losses. You are not the praise or the blame, not the fleeting pleasures or the moments of pain. You are the one who sees. You are the one who rests in clarity. And that is enough. That is always enough. As you rest in this truth, you notice something subtle beneath the surface. The patterns of mind that keep returning, like echoes that won't fade. Thoughts that rise long after the day has ended. Narratives that loop even when the body is weary. This persistence points to something deeper, roots beneath the soil, knots tied long ago that still bind the heart. In Buddhist teachings, these knots are called the fetters, 10 binding forces that keep beings tied to cycles of restlessness and dissatisfaction. They are not physical chains, but inner habits, assumptions, and attachments that shape how you see yourself and the world. They are subtle, often invisible, but at night when everything is still, they reveal themselves. In the tightness in your chest, in the endless commentary of thought, in the inability to fully surrender. The Buddha taught that these fetters are what bind beings to suffering, not only the dramatic suffering of crisis, but also the quiet unease that lingers, the friction that prevents complete peace. They are not shattered in a single moment. They are loosened slowly, through awareness, through insight, through willingness to see clearly. And bedtime, often dismissed as ordinary routine, is in fact a gateway into this work. Because at night, pretending stops. You are no longer performing. You are simply face to face with the truth of your own mind. The first fetter is belief in a fixed self. The illusion that there is a solid, permanent identity at the center of your experience. It whispers, I am this body. I am these roles. I am my story. I am the one who must achieve, prove, control. And when sleep does not come easily, this belief grows louder. What's wrong with me? Why can't I relax? I should be better than this. These thoughts feel personal, but they are the echo of a self-image that has never been questioned. When you release this belief, even slightly, rest becomes easier because there is no longer a self to perform or defend. There is only awareness, quietly dissolving into the second fetter is doubt. Not the healthy curiosity that asks questions, but the paralyzing uncertainty that keeps the mind circling. Is this working? Will I ever sleep? Am I doing this right? Doubt keeps you hovering at the edge of rest, never fully allowing the descent. But doubt fades when you trust direct experience. The breath is here, the body is softening, The night is already holding you. You do not need to understand everything. You only need to stay with what is real. The third fetter is attachment to rules and rituals. This is not about gentle discipline, it is about rigidity. The belief that peace can only arrive if conditions are perfect. I need this exact pillow. The room must be silent. The routine must unfold just right. And if anything is different, rest feels impossible. But the truth is, peace does not depend on perfection. Peace can arrive in imperfection, in unpredictability, in the ordinary chaos of life. When you loosen this attachment, you see that stillness is available in any condition, because stillness is not created by circumstance, it is revealed by letting go. These first three fetters, the sense of self, the grip of doubt, and the clinging to ritual, are often what rise at night. They bind the mind in loops of identity, uncertainty, and control. But when you see them clearly, when you name them without judgment, they begin to loosen. And so, as you prepare for rest, you can whisper inwardly, "I am not my story. I trust what is here. I do not need perfection to be at peace." Let those words open space inside you. Let them soften the grip of habit. Let them guide you toward release. These attachments create pressure. They tighten the mind instead of loosening it. They turn rest into a performance rather than a natural return. But when you loosen a fetter, even slightly, flexibility appears. Peace doesn't come because everything is controlled. It comes because you've stopped needing control. The fourth fetter is sensual craving. It is not only about pleasure of the body, it is the mind's hunger for stimulation, for more comfort, more distraction, more input. Even in bed, these craving whispers, just one more scroll, one more video, one more snack. But craving never ends. It only delays rest. When you meet it with awareness, you see its emptiness. You realize that beneath the wanting, peace has been here all along. The fifth fetter is ill will, the subtle push against life, a resistance toward discomfort, toward others, toward yourself. At night, it often surfaces as frustration. Why am I still awake? Why did they treat me that way? These thoughts feel justified, but they tighten the heart. They turn the pillow into a battlefield. Forgiveness loosens this fetter, not as a gift to others, but as a release for yourself. Forgiveness is the medicine that lets the heart soften into peace. The sixth fetter is craving for form existence, the deep attachment to being someone, to being recognized, remembered, understood. Even when you are alone, the performance may continue. The mind imagines the audience, rehearses its role, plays out scenes. This is exhausting. Sleep resists performance. But when you let go of the need to be someone, even briefly, a deep, nourishing rest opens. The seventh fetter is craving for formless existence, more subtle still. It is the desire to escape entirely, to vanish into some pure, transcendent state beyond body and time. Even spiritual practice can turn into this craving, the longing to get away. But peace is not found in escape, it is found in the courage to fully inhabit this moment as it is, with all its ordinariness. The eighth fetter is conceit, not arrogance, but comparison, the measuring of self against others. Am I progressing enough? Do others sleep better than me? Am I falling behind? Comparison is endless. It closes the heart and divides the mind. But when you drop the measuring stick, you return to your own breath, your own body, your own night. And that is always enough. The ninth fetter is restlessness. Not a single thought, but a hum beneath the surface, a background buzz of discontent. It is the sense that something is missing, even when nothing is wrong. Restlessness keeps the body alert long after the day is done. This is where mindfulness becomes medicine. Each breath, each sensation is an anchor. Each exhale is a reminder. This is enough. I am enough. The 10th fetter is ignorance, not lack of knowledge, but lack of seeing clearly. The mind that forgets impermanence, that believes things are fixed, that mistakes thoughts for truth, that insists rest must be earned. But when ignorance fades, wisdom grows. You see that the night is not an enemy, that sleep is not a trophy, that peace is not far away. Each of these fetters can reveal itself in stillness. They come forward at night, not to punish you, but to invite you, to show you what still binds and what can be released. Not all at once, not with violence, but slowly, gently, with kindness and honesty. So tonight, reflect with care. Which fetter stirred in you today? Which one lingers now? Can you name it without judgment? Can you sit with it without clinging? Can you loosen it even slightly with awareness? You are not asked to break every chain tonight, only to see what is here, to see what tugs at your peace, to rest in the clarity of seeing. And that seeing itself is the beginning of release. Now let your breath carry you deeper. Let it travel into the tight places. Let it soften what no longer needs to be held. Let your mind settle, not only. The 7th picture is the ox forgotten, the seeker alone. In this stage, you begin to see that all the searching, all the effort, all the chasing after resolution was itself a movement of mind. What you thought was missing was never separate from you. The ox was not out there. It was always the life pulsing through each breath, the awareness present in each moment. Even dreams are no longer obstacles to peace, but reflections of it. They stop being puzzles to decode and instead become mirrors, gentle reminders of how inseparable the inner and outer worlds truly are. Then comes the 8th picture, both self and ox forgotten. Here the restless seeker and the untamed mind dissolve together. What remains is pure presence, wordless and whole. This is not ordinary sleep. It is not a dream you remember or a narrative you carry. It is a deep, luminous stillness, a kind of rest that leaves no residue. You wake not with fragments to interpret, but with a lightness that cannot be explained. This stage is rare and subtle, yet it points to what is possible when grasping falls away entirely. The 9th picture is the return to the source. After the forgetting, after the deep stillness, there is a kind of re-emergence. You wake, you rise, you step back into form, but with new eyes. The ordinary world no longer feels ordinary. Each sound, each sensation, each face you meet carries the freshness of beginning. In dream time and in sleep, you touched what is timeless. Now you carry that fragrance back into time-bound life. The day becomes a continuation of the night's practice. And finally, the 10th picture, entering the marketplace with open hands. The boy returns to the world, not as someone striving, not as someone burdened, but as someone free. He walks through the marketplace, the noise, the business, the endless exchanges of gain and loss, with empty hands. Empty because nothing needs to be clung to. Empty because nothing is missing. Empty because presence itself is fullness. This too can be your relationship to sleep. Night is not a gap in the path, not wasted time, not a blank to push through. It is part of the journey. A chance each evening to release the restless seeker, to loosen the fetters, to drop the worldly winds, to soften into forgiveness, to enter stillness, to forget even yourself. And so tonight, as you rest, you might remember the ox-herding boy. You might see in your own restless circling the beginning of practice. You might recognize in your dreams the footprints of awareness. You might feel in your body the tug of the ox, strong and wild, and the gentle strength it takes to lead it home. You might notice, in moments of deep rest, how both seeker and sought fall away. And then you might wake in the morning, stepping back into the world with lighter hands, with a clearer gaze, with a heart a little less burdened, not because everything is perfect, but because you remembered presence was always here, even in the silence of sleep. Let this night carry you through its own ox herding. Let each stage, from restlessness to stillness, unfold in its own rhythm. You do not need to control it, you only need to allow it. Sleep will come, dreams may come, deep rest will come, and beyond them all, awareness remains, steady and bright, waiting to greet you again with the morning light. Many people mistake effort for control. They believe that if they could just push harder, focus longer, discipline themselves more strictly, then peace would arrive. But the truth of right effort is softer. It is not the clenched fist. It is the open palm. It is not straining the breath. It is resting in the breath that is already there. When you bring this understanding into the night, the whole relationship with rest changes. You stop treating sleep as a test to pass, a prize to win, or a skill to master. You begin to see it as something organic, something that blossoms when the conditions are kind. Just as flowers bloom in spring without being forced, the body settles into sleep when pressure is removed. This is why right effort is so important here. It shifts the energy of the mind from striving to allowing, from demanding to welcoming. Instead of saying, I must sleep now or tomorrow will be ruined, you say, I am creating the conditions for rest. Sleep will come in its own time. Already the body softens at this message. Already the nervous system receives permission to release. Right effort at night is simple. It begins with intention, the quiet resolve to stop harming yourself with judgment, to turn away from harshness, to stop feeding the restless voice that insists something is wrong. Each time you notice that voice, you meet it like a child having a tantrum, patiently, without anger. You do not need to argue with it. You simply let it tire itself out. Then comes cultivation, choosing what to water in the mind. Instead of replaying the day's stories, you choose the breath. Instead of tightening against discomfort, you choose compassion. Instead of resisting the moment, you choose accept. Each choice is small, but together they create the soil in which rest grows. And finally, right effort knows when to step back. It knows that even practice has limits. Just as a gardener does not pull at the seed to make it sprout, you cannot tug at yourself to make sleep happen. You prepare, you soften, you allow, and then you trust. Sleep is not made. Sleep is received. As you lie here now, let this be your practice of right effort. Release the pressure, drop the demand, whisper inwardly, I do not need to force this. I am only creating the space. Sleep will come when it is ready. Feel how the body responds to that permission. The breath deepens. The shoulders release. The heart grows lighter. You have stopped chasing. You have stopped resisting. You are simply. This is the essence of right effort, not force, not neglect, but balance. The energy that knows when to engage and when to let go. The wisdom that recognizes rest is not earned, but allowed. And so, as the night carries you further inward, let go of control. Let the ox return to the field. Let the winds pass overhead. Let the fetters loosen on their own. Let the messengers step back into silence. You are not required to do anything more. The body knows how to rest. The breath knows how to soften. Awareness knows how to dissolve. Trust this. Trust yourself. Trust the night. Let sleep arrive, not as something captured, but as something received. Let it come quietly, like a tide returning to shore. Let it take you as you are, unfinished, imperfect, human. And when it comes, may it be gentle, may it be deep, may it be free of strife. Because tonight, you are no longer forcing peace. Sensual desire is subtle because it often masquerades as comfort. The mind whispers, if I just get this one thing, then I'll be at ease. But every time you follow, the horizon moves. The just one more never ends. At night, this hindrance delays rest by keeping you reaching outward rather than softening inward. The way to meet sensual desire is not to condemn it. Desire itself is not wrong. It is simply energy moving outward, seeking. But it does not deliver the peace it promises. So instead of suppressing it, see it clearly. Notice how it feels in the body, perhaps a restlessness in the hands, an itch to move, an unsettled vibration in the chest. Notice the thought it rides on. Just a little more, then I'll feel okay. Recognize the loop, smile at it gently, and return to the breath, to the weight of the body, to the quiet reality of this moment. Remind yourself, satisfaction isn't there, it is here. It has always been here. The second hindrance is ill will. This is the quiet resistance, the subtle pushing away. It might be directed toward yourself. Why am I still awake? What's wrong with me? Or toward others. Replaying an argument, reliving a slight, keeping the heart tight with blame. Ill will keeps the body tense because the nervous system believes it is under attack, even when the enemy is only memory. To meet ill will, bring forgiveness. Not as approval of what happened, but as release of your own burden. Whisper inwardly, I forgive this moment. I forgive myself for struggling. I release them from my mind. I release myself from this weight. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the medicine that unclenches the heart and opens the doorway to rest. The third hindrance is sloth and torpor, the heaviness of mind and body, the fogginess that feels like sleepiness but is not true rest. It is the state of collapse, of drifting without awareness. At night it may show up as zoning out with a screen, drifting in half-consciousness without truly relaxing. To meet sloth and torpor, you don't need to fight it. You need to add gentle brightness. Shift your posture slightly, deepen the breath. Bring a soft curiosity to the moment. Say quietly, I am here. I am awake to this moment. Even as I prepare for sleep, it may sound paradoxical, but real rest comes not from numbing out, but from conscious letting go. The fourth hindrance is restlessness and worry. This is the buzzing undercurrent, the hum of unfinished tasks, the mind spinning stories of what could go wrong tomorrow. Even when the body is still, the mind paces the floor. Restlessness convinces you that if you just think a little longer, you'll solve it. But the solving never comes at night. To meet restlessness, anchor in the present. Place a hand on your chest or belly. Feel the rise and fall. Say inwardly, this is enough. I am enough. Tomorrow will arrive when it arrives. Each breath becomes a ground. Each exhale tells the nervous system it can stand down. The fifth hindrance is doubt. Not the wise questioning that leads to insight, but the voice that erodes trust. Will this work? Am I doing it right? Will I ever fall asleep? Doubt circles endlessly because it seeks certainty where none can be given. To meet doubt, return to direct experience. You don't need to know if you'll sleep. You don't need to know if this practice is perfect. You only need to notice the breath entering now, the body resting now, the present unfolding now. Trust the process, even when results are invisible. Say quietly, this is the practice, this is enough. All 5 hindrances share the same root misunderstanding. They whisper that peace is outside of you, that rest must be earned, that something else must change before you can let go. Sensual desire promises comfort in more stimulation. Ill will promises resolution through rejection. Sloth pretends to offer rest, but dulls awareness. Restlessness promises solutions if you keep thinking. Doubt insists that certainty is needed before you can relax. But each one, when seen clearly, loses its power. They are not enemies. They are not proof of failure. They are simply passing weather, clouds moving across the sky of awareness. Their presence is not a problem. Their recognition is already the beginning of release. So, when you notice desire tugging outward, you return gently inward. When you feel ill will tightening, you meet it with kindness. When dullness creeps in, you invite a spark of interest. When restlessness pulls you, you anchor back to the breath. When doubt circles, you stop answering and rest in what is real. Each time you do this, the grip loosens, the sky clears, stillness grows. You don't need to eliminate the hindrances. You only need to see them for what they are, temporary visitors, not your identity. You are not your craving. You are not your irritation. You are not your dullness. You are not your spinning thoughts. You are not your doubt. You are the one who sees them, the awareness that remains steady as they pass. And awareness, when remembered, is already peace. So let the hindrances show themselves. Let them rise and fall. They have no lasting power unless you give them your belief. Rest is here beneath them, waiting patiently, like the calm ocean beneath restless waves. Now as you breathe, you can whisper inwardly, this desire will pass, this irritation will soften, this heaviness will lift, this restlessness will settle, this doubt will fade, and I will remain present, steady, at ease. You do not need to fight the hindrances. You do not need to fix them. You only need to rest with them until they move on. And in that resting, in that soft, unhurried awareness, you discover what has been here all along, the possibility of peace, the rhythm of breath, the quiet readiness of sleep. Sleep is not the absence of hindrance. It is the space beneath them, the place where all weather clears, the place where the body and mind finally remember their own wisdom, their own rhythm, their own ease. You are already in that space. Trust it. Let go. Let the hindrances dissolve into the night. Let rest come, as it always does, on its own, in its own time, in its own way. You are safe. You are held. You are enough. Now let sleep begin. Touch is always present. The skin rests against fabric. The body sinks into the bed. The air brushes across the face. These sensations are constant, but at night they can become exaggerated. A wrinkle in the sheet, the temperature of the room, the weight of the blanket. If the mind fixates, the body becomes restless. Guarding the sense door of touch means shifting from judgment to presence. Instead of this is too much, too little, not right, simply note warmth, coolness, pressure, contact. The body is not an obstacle, it is the anchor. Let each point of contact remind you, I am here, I am safe, I can rest. And then there is the mind itself, the most subtle of the sense doors. The Buddha taught that thoughts are also impressions, just like sights and sounds. They arise, they pass, they shape the inner landscape. At night, when the outer senses are quieter, the mind door opens wide. Images, memories, half dreams, fragments of the day, all flood in. This is where rest is most often disturbed, not by what is outside, but by what continues inside. Guarding the mind door does not mean forcing thought away. It means meeting it with the same care you meet sound or touch. Just thought, just thinking. No need to finish the story. No need to argue with the narrative. Thought is only another sense impression, arising and fading. When you learn to guard the sense doors in this way, stillness is no longer fragile. You don't need silence to sleep. You don't need perfect conditions. You simply need awareness that notices without grasping. So as you lie here now, let the eyes soften, the ears rest, the tongue grow quiet, the skin sink gently into the bed, the breath carry you. And when the mind door opens, let thoughts be just thoughts. Let them pass like ripples in a wide, calm lake. This guarding is not a restriction. It is protection. It is not shutting life out, but keeping the heart free. Tonight, the senses can rest with you. They do not need to feed the mind any longer. They too can be quiet. And in that quiet, the body knows what to do. The breath deepens, the heart slows, the mind softens. The whole system remembers its rhythm. You do not have to force it. You only have to allow it. Guard the doors gently and let the house of the body grow still. Let rest enter like a guest who has always been waiting, patient at the threshold. From now on, you've walked through the teaching step by step, the first and second arrows, the heavenly messengers, the worldly winds, the fetters, the ox-herding journey, right effort, the hindrances, the guarding of the sense doors. Each one has opened a different doorway, pointing you back to the same truth, that peace is not earned, not forced, not manufactured. It is remembered. Sleep too is remembered. The body already knows how. The breath already knows how. The heart, once freed from its grasping, falls naturally into rhythm. Tonight, you are not building rest, you are uncovering it. So let the eyes close now, without effort. Let the ears soften into the quiet. Let the body sink deeper into the bed, releasing every last attempt to hold itself up. Let the mind rest, not by silencing thought, but by no longer chasing it. Awareness itself is your pillow now, soft, steady, enough. If teachings remain in the mind, let them drift into dreams. If silence remains, let it deepen. If nothing remains, trust even that. You are safe, you are whole, you are home. May you rest tonight, not as escape, but as return. May your dreams be gentle teachers. May your breath carry you deeper than striving ever could. And when morning comes, may you rise not only refreshed, but reminded of clarity, of compassion, of the freedom that was always here. Thank you for walking this path. Thank you for letting go, again and again, one breath at a time. Rest well, sleep deeply, wake gently, and remember you are already enough.